Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Was Betrayed by Girls and join the familiar of Zero World Part 3. Before we start, please go support issei-senyu for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. Chapter 30, The Battle. Who are they? We are in the city of South Gotha and we can see how a festival was taking place in the city where all the people were celebrating the Silver Pentecost. Issei, so the Silver Pentecost is the same as the New Year celebration. Louise, being at war, do the people of South Gotha have no pride or something? Louise, they even welcomed us. Rosweiss, the Albion army wasn't protecting them, and they confiscated all their supplies and left, right? Don't you think it's logical that people would welcome an army that helped them instead of one that made them suffer? Louise, but don't you understand that we are at war? Issei, Louise, war is not what everyone prefers. They choose to celebrate that they are now at peace and with the help of the Trihexa army. Louise, but... Issei, besides, it's better this way instead of people being panicky all the time. Besides, not all of us are noble, that's why they don't care so much about their pride. At that, Issei approaches where Louise was and hugs her from behind and approaches Louise's ear and whispers to her. Issei, besides, don't you prefer us to be like this so that we can be alone and enjoy? Upon hearing that, Louise blushes and takes Issei's hands, turns around, and kisses him. It's worth mentioning that Rosweiss watched this with envy, but Issei noticed and went to where she was and kisses her too, and then they separate. Issei, it would be best if we go quickly to see what the princess needs to help her, and then we'll be alone together, the three of us, to have fun. Then the three of them set off to where the princess was. After a few minutes of walking, they arrived at where the princess was, who was accompanied by the army general. Henrietta, Louise, Issei, Rosweiss, how good it is to see you. Louise, likewise, Your Majesty, why did you call us? Henrietta, what happened is that a few days ago we managed to bring the machine you used on your mission in the snowy mountains. It's called Zero, right? It can be used now, right? Issei, no princess, the plane still needs parts to be fixed. Why do you need it? General, as you may know, we have accepted a request from Albion, which allows the military forces to rest while the Silver Pentecost is celebrated. But I fear that they are planning a surprise attack, so I would like you to fly to the capital, Londinium, and monitor the movements of Albion's forces. Louise, okay. General, if we used our Dragon Knights we would be breaking the peace agreement, so if for some reason they were captured they could use their student identities to escape. Even though their last mission was a failure, this mission is only for observation, so they won't have any problems carrying it out, right? Louise, of course we will carry out the mission without fail. Henrietta, be careful and don't push yourself too hard, Louise. Louise, of course. Time jump. Now we can see how Issei, Rosweiss, and Louise were repairing the plane to be able to carry out the mission that the princess had entrusted to them. Issei, this is harder without Professor Colbert. Louise, we have to find another way to go without being recognized as Tristan soldiers. Rosweiss, Issei, and if we use our wings to go. Issei, it would be a problem if they detect us since we would have to carry Louise. At that moment, Louise sees Julio's, who was with his dragon. She approaches him and speaks to him. Louise, Julio, can I ask you a favor? Julio, whatever you want. Louise, but I haven't told you anything yet. Julio, if a beauty like you asks for it, it doesn't matter what it is, and so? Louise, even though you are a Dragon Knight of the Bronze Squadron, you do not belong to the Trine army, right? Julio, no, I am part of the Imperial Court of Amalia. Louise, upon hearing that he did not belong to the Albion army, decides to ask him for help. Louise, Julio, could you help us with our mission? Julio, and what is it? In that, Louise tells him about the mission they were about to carry out and about the situation they were in. Meanwhile, Issei, who was trying to repair the plane, sees that Louise was talking to Julio and then sees that she was riding her dragon, and he decides to go see what's happening. Issei, Louise, what are you doing? Louise, I asked Julio for help to take me since he doesn't belong to the Albion army so you can fly without worrying. In that, Issei sees how Julio's dragon begins to take flight away from him, in that he goes to where Rosweiss was and tells her what happened when issei finishes, activates the balance break, and Rosweiss makes her Valkyrie armor appear along with her demon wings, and both take flight to where Louise was with Julio. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city of Londinium, Albion, in the castle, 3 people could be seen talking, 2 men and a woman. Unknown, surrender? Are you willing to betray your homeland? Unknown 2, no, I thought we could consider that possibility. If we continue defending, we could hold out a little longer, but our army doesn't have enough men to launch an attack. Unknown, thinking, this has nothing to do with the army, it's just that I don't need to continue using this country. Meanwhile, with our protagonists, they were already flying over the city of Londinium, and then they see 4 dragons approaching to attack them. Issei charges a dragon shot and shoots a dragon in the wings, causing it to collapse while the rest of the enemy dragons began to throw fire at them. They dodge it. Rosweiss approaches one and attacks the dragon with her magic, causing it to fall to the ground. Meanwhile, Julio gets behind the remaining 2 and his dragon attacks them with fire, causing them to fall to the ground. Issei, we better go. Julio, you're right. Time jump. Now we see how Issei, Louise, and Rosweiss have returned from the observation mission of the Albion forces. Now they were in the town walking around the place when suddenly they meet Siesta, who upon seeing Issei, throws herself at him, hugging him and giving him a kiss, which Issei happily reciprocates. Then they separate with a thread of saliva uniting them. Issei, how nice to see you, Siesta-chan. Siesta, I miss you so much, Issei-kun. Issei, and tell me, Siesta, what are you doing here? Siesta, well, since classes at the academy have been suspended, and since my uncle has a business in this area, I asked him to bring me with him. Issei, so your uncle, huh? Unknown, issei-sen. At that point, everyone sees how someone runs to where Issei was. From one moment to the next, the person throws himself and hugs Issei tightly. When they do, they realize that the person who came running was no one else but Madame. Issei, Skara, don't tell me your uncle is. Siesta, well, yes. Skara, what guy are you talking about? Issei, what do I mean, when Isama, Madame? Skara, don't say that. Siesta and you are friends? Issei, hey, well, more than that. Skara, hey, that means the boy you were looking for in Albion and the boy you love and are willing to fight for is Issei. Skara, wow, Issei, you were keeping quiet about going out with Siesta even though you already had Louise-chan a love triangle? Issei, hee. Skara, Issei, how about we go to the store to get something to drink, and you tell us everything. Time jump. Now we find ourselves in Skara's store where his daughter was also, who also happens to be Siesta's cousin. They were talking about Issei. Cousin, it turns out that you were the guy that Siesta drools over. Issei, well? At that point, Issei begins to tell them everything about his relationship with Siesta, Louise, and Rosweiss. It's worth mentioning that they were impressed that Issei could have a relationship with all 3 of them and that he loved them all equally. And since they saw that they had no problems sharing it, they decided to let it go. After that, Issei tells Guiche to enter the store where they were. Issei, Guiche. Guiche, what's up? This is a Medal of Honor from the government, although it wasn't much. Apparently, they considered it an honor. General Polacci himself decorated me. Louise, impressive. Guiche, as a nobleman, there is no more honorable moment than something like this. So they all continued talking about how they had been doing so far in the war, and what had happened to them until night fell and Julio joined them in the conversation. Meanwhile, not far from there in the forest at night we can see how the governor of Albion, Sheffield, and a knight were walking in the snow. The knight buries his sword in the snow. Knight, Governor Sheffield, is the secret to defeating enemies found here? Sheffield, 1/3 of the population of South Gotha, is using the lake water for drinking. At that, Sheffield takes off a glove revealing a ring which the gentleman recognizes. Knight, that's Sheffield, and Vari's ring. No one can disobey its orders, not even the dead can escape its power. So Sheffield casts a spell with the ring in the lake water. Sheffield, this war must continue. Knight, who are you really? But the knight notices that there is no one next to him anymore. Sheffield, General, continue now according to plan. I leave Albion in your hands until another time. General, Governor. Meanwhile, back at the tavern where everyone was chatting, Gabriel begins to tell his story of how he was saved by a fairy. Skara, a fairy, you say? And she was as pretty as me? Gabriel, no. It was a real fairy. Julio, a fairy godmother, huh? Gabriel, I tell you that I saw her. It was in the middle of the advance while we were taking supplies. When I woke up, I found myself in the deepest part of the mountain surrounded by enemies. They had killed me. I'm sure they gave me a mortal blow, but when I woke up, I didn't see any wound on my body. Gabriel, thank you very much, fairy. Cousin, you're sure you didn't dream it, right? Julio, people hallucinate things when they are about to die. Gabriel, it wasn't a dream. Siesta, but it doesn't matter, we're glad you survived. It must be terrible to die in foreign lands because of war. Gabriel, no way. I'm a nobleman and that's why I'm not afraid of dying or anything like that. I don't mind dying if it's my honor that's at stake, but since all roads lead to death, I prefer to be able to honor my country a little more and get some medals of honor before dying. Issei, what nonsense are you talking? Gabriel, what do you mean? Issei, to die for honor? To die is to lose everything. What good is a medal if you're dead? Gabriel, that's what a commoner like you who has no honor thinks. Issei, even though I'm a commoner, I have more experience than you in war. Besides, death is the end of everything. Don't waste your life for something as useless as honor. Louise, Issei apologize now. Issei, why? Louise, glory and honor are the most important things for a nobleman, more than our own lives. How many times do I have to repeat this to you? Issei, would you be willing to die for a measly medal when you die? That medal will be completely useless? Louise, I don't want a medal. Issei, huh? Louise, the most important thing to me is my loyalty to the princess. I don't give a damn if nobody understands me. The only thing that matters to me is that the princess understands me. That's the reputation I'm talking about. I would gladly give my life for the princess. Issei, well, it makes me sad that you still think like that, Louise. In this, Issei leaves the place, leaving everyone surprised and Louise sad about how things ended. Rosweiss and Siesta, seeing that Issei was leaving, followed him. Now we can see Issei heading to his room to sleep until he hears someone calling him. Nap, Issei. At that, Issei sees that the person calling him was Siesta, who was accompanied by Rosweiss. At that, Issei stays still. The girls hug him when they get to him. Issei, girls? Siesta, you got mad at Lousy, right? For being too impulsive? Issei, I don't understand how someone would sacrifice themselves for something as silly as a simple recognition. Siesta, it's cold. At that, Siesta falls and kneels on the floor because of the cold and begins to tremble. Seeing this, Issei carries her bridal style and holds her to his chest to warm her up while he begins to head towards Siesta's room while he is followed by Rosweiss. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, we can see some guards who were drunk from drinking all night. Guard 1, I've had too much to drink. At that point the three guards are surprised because they begin to hear a voice. Voice, Henrietta is our enemy, defeat the enemy. At that moment, the guards' eyes began to glow with a purple light, indicating that they were now under Sheffield's metal-bending spell. Meanwhile, returning with Issei and the girls, he was sitting on a bed next to the lit fireplace, hugging Siesta and Rosweiss. Issei, how are things now? Is it warmer? Siesta, I'm hot now. Rosweiss, the truth is we weren't cold. Siesta, we just wanted you to hug us tight. Issei, girls? At that, Issei brings them closer to him. The first one brings Siesta closer, who looks into his eyes and he kisses her on the lips for a few seconds, then he turns towards Rosweiss and also brings her closer and kisses her, then they separate. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, we can see how Louise was walking sadly through the streets towards her room while thinking about what happened with Issei. Louise, when will Issei understand me? He's the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. Meanwhile, elsewhere, to be more specific where the princess was, We can see how they feel an explosion in the distance. Henrietta, what was that? At that moment Innes runs through the door to where they were. Innes, your majesty, rebels! Our army is attacking our own base. General, what nonsense are you talking? At that moment, another fire attack approaches where Innes was. Upon seeing it, he jumps to protect the princess, while the general who was next to the window could not avoid it, and was burned to death. Henrietta, General Polacci. While returning with Issei and the girls, they feel the roar and see the attack through the window. Siesta Issei, Miss Valier is still outside. Issei, I know Siesta, I'll go for her, you stay here safe and Rosweiss take care of Siesta. At that moment Issei was about to leave but Siesta stopped him. Siesta, wait Issei, take this. At that Siesta hands a blue bottle to Issei. Issei, what is this Siesta? Siesta, it's a sleep potion, it's in case Miss Valier tries something rash, it's so that you leave her out, and she doesn't do it. The nobles take it for granted that they are going to die, but I don't want you to suffer for one of their stupidities since you also love them. Issei, thanks Siesta. In that Issei puts the potion in a pocket, and then kisses Siesta, and then quickly goes out in search of Louise. Meanwhile, with Louise, she was in the middle of the street without knowing what was happening around her. Louise, what's going on? Issei. At that Louise begins to search for Issei while she saw how the Trinian forces fought among themselves without knowing why while the civilians fled. At that one of the knights sees Louise and was going to attack her, but she runs away before that and hides in an alley. At that all the knights begin to say death to Henrietta. Louise upon hearing it gets scared and begins to back away, but at that she turns around and sees another knight who was about to attack her. When she sees him she just closes her eyes and screams in fear, but after a few seconds she opens her eyes to see what was happening and sees that the knight was on the floor fainted and Issei was behind him. Louise upon seeing him can't help but get happy and jump to hug him. Louise, silly, where have you been? Issei, I'm sorry Louise, everything has already passed. At that moment, Issei hears the roars of dragons and sees Albion's troops attacking in the sky. Louise, Albion's army. Time jump, it's already daytime and we find ourselves in a reservoir where people wanted to get on the flying boats to escape from the place where the conflict was taking place. All the civilians were trying to get on by force while the guards stopped them. While this was happening, the princess saw this from afar. Then she heard someone talking to her from behind. Bishop, Princess, I'm glad you're okay. Henrietta, Cardinal Mazarin. Cardinal, what exactly happened in the city of Gota del Sur? I heard there were rebels in our own army. Innes, it seems that the enemy has thrown some kind of magical object into the water of the wells. Cardinal, do you mean that they are being controlled by the enemy? Innes, I'm afraid so, since we also had to deal with the Albion army that emerged from the chaos. We have not been able to investigate the cause. We are so at the limit that we have had to retreat here to protect His Majesty. Cardinal. Innes, the enemy not only wants to recover Gota del Sur but has also gathered a powerful army of more than 70,000 soldiers that is now heading towards our port. Cardinal, Your Majesty, or we can allow any more delays. I beg you to board the evacuation ship right now. Henrietta, no, I'll board the last one that leaves. Cardinal, Your Majesty. Henrietta, I am the Queen of Trine. I do not intend to leave this place until the population is safe. Cardinal, Your Majesty. Meanwhile, with Issei and the others, they were walking and Issei stops Louise to talk. Issei, we just returned to Razith. Are you the rear guard? What do you mean? Louise, let me go. Rosweiss, the rear guard is the last resort of a defense. The mission is to contain the enemy until everyone has been able to escape. Issei, I know Louise, was it an order from the princess? Louise, the princess has no idea about all this. Flashback starts. Now we can see Louise and the Cardinal talking in a hidden place. Cardinal, Miss Valier, we need your power to save His Highness, I beg you. Louise, but as Cardinal, please stand up. I would do anything to help His Majesty. Cardinal, Miss Valier, this is not an order. Flashback ends. Issei, and so you accepted? But what were you thinking, Louise? The enemy has more than 70,000 men. Louise, I have the magic of the void. Issei, Louise, you can't use it. You don't have enough power for them, and we haven't tested the increases from my booster gear. Louise, I know, but I want to help the princess. I have to be able to use it for my mother. There is nothing that can compare to the honor of protecting the princess. Issei, honor? Louise, please leave that. You are one of the most important things in my life. I don't want to lose you for something like honor. Louise, Issei, you are also the most important thing to me, but this is not only about honor. The army does not have the capacity to face more than 70,000 soldiers. In addition, the maids and all the fairy people will be killed, and they may even humiliate them. I do not want to die either, but… Louise, I am a noble, and dying for my comrades is something we should be proud of. You may think it's stupid, but isn't dying for your comrades something important? Issei, maybe you're right, but I won't let you die alone. You're very important to me. Then Louise hugs Issei and he hugs her back. After that, Issei sees some bottles of wine and goes to get one while Louise just watches. Louise, what do you want that bottle for? Issei, let's toast. Louise, why? Issei, to celebrate our last day together, since I won't let you be alone, and if we die we'll be together, Louise. Louise, Issei. At that, Louise's tears begin to fall and she goes to where Issei was and kisses him. He kisses him back and after a few minutes they separate. Then Rosweiss approaches and also kisses Issei. Then they begin to walk to a place where they can be together until the time of the fight. But while they were passing through the town, Louise notices one of the merchant stores that was being dismantled, and on the table she sees some bottles with flowers inside and approaches to buy them. Louise, excuse me, how much do these flowers cost? Seller, I'll give them to you, take them and go. At that moment, the seller finishes arranging his things and runs off, while Louise picks 3 flowers. Louise, thank you. Issei, Louise, what are those flowers? Louise, they are flowers éclair d'amour. Issei, love éclair? Rosweiss, what are they for? Louise, it is supposed that when you form a special bond between 2 people, these flowers reflect the other state to know if they are well or in trouble so that they can help each other. They are usually used by couples. At that, Louise gives one to Issei and one to Rosweiss. Then they start walking again. After a while they arrive at a church where they decide that they will wait until nightfall to carry out their attack. In the place were Louise and Rosweiss talking while Issei was preparing some glasses of wine, while remembering the plan he had with Rosweiss. Flashback starts. We can see Issei and Rosweiss talking while waiting for Louise, who was looking for something in the room. Issei, Roschan, I'm worried about Louise. Rosweiss, I also don't think it's best for her to go fight. At that, Issei takes out the bottle that Siesta had given him earlier with the sleep potion, and Rosweiss sees it. Rosweiss, Issei, why did you use that? Issei, I'm thinking of using Rosweiss on Louise. Rosweiss, and what is your idea? Issei, my idea is that somehow I can get Louise to drink it, and then I want you to take her to the ships and get out of here. Rosweiss, Issei will not leave you alone in battle. Issei, please Roschan, you are the most important thing to me. I don't want anything to happen to you. Rosweiss, but… At that, Issei sees that Rosweiss is starting to shed tears, and seeing this, Issei takes her chin and brings her close enough to plant a kiss on her, to which Rosweiss reciprocates, and after a few seconds they separate. Issei, please Rosweiss, I promise I'll come back, but I want you to take care of Louise in the meantime. Rosweiss, it's okay Issei, I believe in you. Flashback ends. Now we see how Issei added the sleeping potion to one of the glasses, which Louise would have to drink. When everything is ready, he approaches the girls with the wine glasses and gives one to each of them. Issei, for victory. Girls, for the victory. Then the 3 of them drink the glass of wine. After that, they continue talking for a few minutes until Issei notices that Louise is falling asleep. He goes to her and grabs her before she falls asleep. Issei, Roschan ready? Rosweiss, Issei, let's just be careful. At that, Issei hands Louise to Rosweiss, who takes it and starts heading towards the port to take the boat and get out of here. Meanwhile, Issei was still inside the church talking to his tenants. Issei, boys ready for battle. Drake, like old times before we got here. Issei, yes. Derflinger, buddy, are you sure what you did? Issei, yes, Derflinger. I don't want anything bad to happen to Louise. This will be an important battle and I don't think I could protect her. Drake, remember we're with you. Issei, thank you. In that, Issei begins to walk towards the battlefield. Meanwhile, far away from that place in Issei's world, we can see all the Gremory girls gathered in Issei's house together with Surzek and Ravel, and Ryu was also preparing the portal to go to where Issei was. Ryu, it's almost ready. Who's going? In that, Rias, Akeno, Zenobia, Asia and Irina look at each other and start fighting, but without realizing it, Kaneko and Ravel approach where Ryu was. Ravel, it will be us, Ryu-sama. Ryu, I see you know the deal, right? Ravel, yes. Ryu, then I wish you luck. At that, Ryu opens the portal and Ravel and Kaneko enter it while the girls continue fighting without realizing what happened. Ryu, well, Surzek, my work here is over for now, so I'm leaving. Rias, what do you mean, Ryu-sama? We haven't chosen who will go yet. Ryu, I think you're wrong. The Nakomata girl and the Phoenix decided to go. Rias, Kaneko and Ravel. Akeno, Era, it seems they got ahead of us again. Zenobia, not again. Irina, who follows Asia. At that, everyone looks at Asia, who is just nervous about what they just said. Surzek, let this be a lesson to you. For fighting all the time, you lost another opportunity. Rias, sorry bro. Ryu, well, see you next time. In that, Ryu creates a black magic circle and leaves the place, leaving the girls sad because they lost another opportunity. Meanwhile, with Kaneko and Ravel, they appeared not far from the church where Issei was at that moment. Meanwhile, elsewhere we can see how the ships were finishing leaving while in the chaos Ennis was hurrying people. Ennis, hurry, the enemy is approaching. Let no one be left behind. Returning with our protagonist, he set off to where the enemy was. On the way, he encountered different groups of guards who, upon seeing him, did not hesitate to attack, but Issei killed them without problems, without realizing that someone was following his trail not far away. While back in the kingdom, we can see the princess upset. Henrietta, what are you saying? We can't stop the boat. We have to go back for Louise. Henrietta stands up and starts to head for the exit of the room but is stopped by the Cardinal. Cardinal, Your Majesty. Henrietta, let me go. Cardinal, you will lose your lives if you go to the battlefield now. Henrietta, even if that were the case, I can't leave Louise there. Let me go, I beg you. Let me go. At that, he breaks free from the Cardinal's grip and turns around to see him, but he was kneeling on the floor. Cardinal, I beg you, if you lose your life, it will be much more than a small defeat in this war. The whole country would succumb to chaos. Henrietta, Cardinal Mazarin. Cardinal, if your Highness insists on leaving now, all of Miss Valier's efforts will have been in vain. Henrietta, it can't be, it can't be. Meanwhile, Louise and Rosweiss were already on board a ship, and then Louise began to wake up. Rosweiss, I see you're already awake. Louise, Rosweiss, what happened? At that, Louise begins to look around and sees that they were on board one of the evacuation ships. Louise, we are on a boat, we have to stop the enemy. He gets up quickly, but when he starts walking he finds himself having a nap. Siesta, Miss Valier, where is Issei? Louise, Issei, where is Issei? Rosweiss, he is not here to confront the enemy. Louise, what did you just say? Rosweiss, this was Issei's plan. Louise, what do you mean by plan? Rosweiss, Issei didn't want us to get involved in the battle, so he decided to put you to sleep with the magic potion so he could bring you here. Siesta, upon hearing that Issei was alone in the battle, cannot help but faint from surprise, while Louise, upon hearing this, tries to jump off the ship to go look for Issei, but Skarra stops her by holding her. Louise, let go. Skarra, Louise, it's too late. Louise, don't leave me, let me go, it's not too late yet, I can't leave Issei alone. At that, Skarra lifts her up and takes her back to prevent her from putting herself in danger. Meanwhile, Issei was finishing off one of the last squadrons of vigilantes and was now at the top of a hill watching the enemy camp, but then he feels two energies behind him not far from there, so he decides to go look for them when he enters the forest too. Look for the energies. He sees that behind a tree something was moving and jumps ready to fight, but then he sees that the people were none other than Ravel and Kaneko, who when she sees issei Ravel can't contain herself, and jumps on top of him to hug him. Issei, Ravel, is that you? Ravel, who else? Issei-sama. At that, issei reciprocates Ravel's hug. After a few seconds, he sees that Kaneko was standing behind Ravel, and when issei sees her, he puts on a serious face. Issei, Ravel, how did you get here? And why is she here? Ravel, well, what happens is. And then Ravel starts to tell him everything that had happened, how he found out what happened to him, and also why they were here and why Kaneko was there, since according to her it had all been a terrible idea and that she was very sorry. Ravel, and that's what happened. Issei, what are you doing here and why are you so married? Issei, what happens is that. In that, issei tells them everything that had happened until now, and why he was on the battlefield. The girls, upon hearing all that, couldn't help but worry about issei's current situation. Ravel, let us help you, issei. Kaneko, issei-senpai, I know I made a mistake and I'm sorry, but let me help you fight now. Issei, I'm sorry, but I don't want you to get involved, especially your Ravel. Ravel, issei, we are not weak, we want to help you fight. Issei, I know you're not weak, but I don't want you to get hurt. Ravel, but. Issei, I'm sorry, Ravel, but please stay back. At that, issei turns around to patch himself up but feels someone holding him. He turns around thinking it was Ravel, but it was Kaneko who was holding issei's arm. Issei, let me go, Kaneko. Kaneko, issei-senpai, I know you're mad at me for issei's stupidity, but I still love you, and that's why even if you like it or not, we're going to help you in battle. Issei, I don't hate you, Kaneko, but I don't love you either. Now what you did hurt me too much, and even if it's true it was completely stupid, and I can't forgive you just like that. Kaneko, upon hearing that issei no longer loved her, began to cry because due to a stupidity she lost a man she loved, and now that she found him, he tells her that he will not forgive her. Issei, upon seeing this, just puts a hand on her head, which surprises Kaneko. Issei, we'll talk about this later. Now stay here with Ravel. In that, issei goes on his way to the place where the Albion forces were. Issei jumps down the mountain and activates his balance break while the girls followed him and watched issei from above, while the Albion forces, seeing him fall in front of them, do not hesitate to go and attack him. While issei sees that the Albion army is coming, he summons Ascalon and Derflinger, and runs towards the enemy issei. The forces, seeing him, begin to launch all kinds of magical attacks against issei, who only block them with their swords. After reaching where he was, he jumps and falls on some soldiers, breaking their necks by the impact. After that, the soldiers jump on issei, but he begins to attack them with their swords. First it was one who went head-on against issei. When he sees him, blocks his attack with Ascalon, and with Derflinger he counterattacks, killing him. Then two others come who jump on him, but issei dodges it by jumping to the side and then attacking them with a cut in the neck and another in the abdomen. So issei continued fighting against the forces of Albion, while the girls could only watch as issei finished off the enemies, but they felt powerless not to be able to help the person they love. After a while watching issei fight, they noticed that it was costing him more to fight since there were too many for him, so Ravel, seeing this, decides to go help issei. Ravel takes out her phoenix wings and goes to the battlefield to help issei. Kaneko, seeing this, she decides to go too since she wouldn't let anyone hurt senpai. Ravel begins to attack the Albion forces with fire spells while Kaneko fought with her fists and senjutsu to strengthen her attacks. While issei fought, he notices that some enemies were heading elsewhere, and in that he notices Ravel fighting with some magicians, while not far from her was Kaneko fighting against some knights. Issei, seeing this, can't help but let out a slight smile at the girl's attitude, but in that issei sees a soldier who was going to attack Kaneko from behind, who was busy with another issei. Seeing him, he goes to help her, appearing behind Kaneko and preventing Kaneko from attacking her. Seeing these, she is surprised because despite having hurt issei, he still helped her. Kaneko-senpai. Issei, I think I told you not to get involved. Kaneko, I'm sorry, senpai, but we won't let anyone hurt you. At that moment, Ravel arrives to where they were and the three of them begin to fight together, but after a while of fighting they are surrounded by the enemies of Albion. Ravel was a little tired since she was not used to fighting for so long, and Kaneko, who despite being more used to it than Ravel, still had too many for them, and Issei could not take care of all of them and protect them at the same time. Issei, girls, I have an idea. Ravel, which is Issei? Issei, girls, I need you to give me a little time and then go to the top of the mountain, and there Ravel will help me from a distance while Kaneko rests. Kaneko, Issei-senpai, what are you doing in the meantime? Issei, I will activate the Juggernaut drive. Ravel, Issei, you're crazy, last time you almost died. Issei, don't worry, I've got you covered. Kaneko, but... Issei, trust me. Ravel, we trust you, Issei. At that, Issei charges a dragon shot and attacks a few, killing them and making his way through them. Issei, Drake, are you ready? Drake, always a companion. At that, Issei begins with the Juggernaut drive chant. Issei, I, the one who will awaken. I am the heavenly dragon who stole the principles of God's domination. I laughed at infinity and despised dreams. I will become the red dragon of domination. I will sink you into the depths of crimson purgatory. Juggernaut drive. In that, Issei transforms into the Juggernaut drive, scaring the Albion warriors and worrying the girls since they thought that Issei would lose control in that form, but then they see that Issei begins to attack the Albion forces, while Issei begins to crush the enemies while firing several dragon shots from her jaw. In that, she sees Ravel and Kaneko, who were surrounded by the enemy. When Issei sees this, he attacks those from Albion, and the girls get scared because they thought that he would also attack them, but then they see that it did not happen. Issei, sad-faced Juggernaut, get out of here now. The girls, upon hearing Issei speak, were surprised that last time he couldn't because he was out of control, but now it didn't seem that way. Issei, sad-faced Juggernaut, what are you waiting for? Get out of here. The girls came out of shock and summoned their wings to escape and then reached the top of the hill, while Issei was wiping out the Albion forces. After a while of battle, there were very few soldiers left, and they fled to avoid being killed by the dragon. After there was no one left, Issei detransformed and returned to where the girls were, who ran to hug him, knocking him to the ground from the impact. Ravel, Issei is so worried. Kaneko, senpai, don't worry us, come again. Issei, seeing them, reciprocates the hug. After that, they separate and decide to rest in the place since it was too late. Time jump, now it is day, and we find ourselves in the Magic Academy of Tristein, more specifically in Louise's room, which was in bed sad because Issei had not returned yet, while she saw her flower, which was very mistreated. Meanwhile, Rosweiss was sitting on the other side in the same way, but in that Rosweiss sees that the flowers of both begin to shine, and in that Rosweiss gets up quickly, also Louise, since she also noticed the flower, and that both run to the exit of the academy where they stop and begin to search with their eyes, and in that they see Issei in the distance. But he did not come alone, he was accompanied by two people who were girls the same age as Louise, which they did not recognize, but Rosweiss did, and in that they both run to where Issei, who when he sees them is only glad that they are okay. When they arrive where Issei was, they jumped on him and hugged him. After a few seconds, Issei gets up with the girls still hugging him, and with tears in their eyes since they were very worried about him. Louise, Issei, who are they? At that, she points to Kaneko and Ravel, who were behind Issei in silence. Issei sees who she is referring to and begins to tell him who they were and how he found them here. Louise, upon knowing who the white-haired girl was, got angry with her since she was one of those who had hurt Issei, but this habit of them starting to fight. After that, they returned to the academy. Everyone was surprised to see that Issei survived the battle and went to greet him with a smile. Chapter 31, My Relative. We are in Louise's room at the Trident Magic Academy. The war had ended and now our protagonists were resting. Issei was lying in the middle of the girls. Siesta was sleeping on her right side, using her arm as a pillow while Issei hugged her. On the other side of this was Rosweiss sleeping in the same way as Siesta, while Louise was sleeping on top of him, while hugging him and resting her head on Issei's chest. At that point, the sun's rays began to wake Issei up as they hit his face. Issei, girls, it's time to wake up. Louise, 5 more minutes. Rosweiss, keep sleeping, darling. Nap, I don't want to wake up yet. Then Issei, seeing that the girls didn't want to wake up, came up with a great idea. Issei, wait for me Kirchi, I'm coming. The girls, upon hearing that Issei was about to leave with Kirchi, quickly got up in search of Kirchi to make it clear to her that Issei was hers and only hers, but when they saw that there was no one there, they turned around to see Issei. Issei, it was the only way to get him up now that they did it. Get ready. Girls, it's okay. At that, Issei gets up and changes his clothes, then leaves the room while the girls were getting ready. When he leaves, he meets Ravel, who was leaving the room across from his. It turns out that after Issei returned from the battle with the girls, everyone began to ask him several questions about who they were and why they were accompanying him. After he explained everything, he went to the principal's office to ask him if he could let Kaneko and Ravel stay at the academy. He allowed it and ended up giving him the room that was in front of his, which was empty. Returning to now, Issei was in front of Ravel, whom he greeted upon seeing. Ravel, hello Issei. Issei, hello Ravel, how did you sleep? Ravel, well, thank you for getting this room for us. Issei, it doesn't matter, it's nothing, besides they needed a place to sleep. Ravel, yes, but I wanted to sleep with you, Issei, but it seems the bed is full. Issei, yeah, I always sleep with the girls since I came to this place. Ravel, Issei, can I ask you something? Issei, what is Ravel? Ravel, Issei, I want to know what you feel for me. Issei, what do you mean, Ravel? Ravel, according to what I learned from Ryusama, you performed the dragon ritual and this makes you forget the feelings about the people who caused you that pain. I want to know if that also includes me? Issei, the truth is that what I felt for you at that time was not clear to me since I did not spend that much time with you since our relationship at that time was more of a friendship and work relationship since you were my manager. That is why I think that what I felt for you was not affected by the ritual. Ravel, upon hearing that, a smile formed on her face. This was because she still had a chance with Issei, so she decided that today would be the day she would confess her love, but she wouldn't do it now because she wanted it to be special. After that they continued talking for a few minutes, but then they were interrupted because the girls left the room and everyone went to have breakfast. After breakfast, the director gathered all the students who were at the academy in the courtyard, since he had to give an important announcement to everyone. Director, very well, as everyone knows, thanks to the interference of the Gallian kingdom, this resulted in the surrender of the Albion army. This has put a stop to the 8-month war. Director, students, this peace has been thanks to many sacrifices. At least we should raise our prayers for those who have given their lives for us. Let us pray now, please. At that, all the students remained silent for a few minutes while praying for those who fell in battle. After that, the principal spoke again. Principal, very well, now I'm going to tell you what will happen in today's classes. The first years will begin practicing basic magic. So the director told about everything that would happen in today's classes. Meanwhile, in another part of the academy were Issei, Rosweiss, and Ravel talking about everything that had happened until now. In the place when Ravel found out about everything, not only the summary that had been told to her before, she was surprised since many things had happened, but now she was happy because that had ended and that Ravel wanted to ask about the familiar marks that had appeared to Issei when he came to this world since she was curious. Ravel, Issei, you became Lise's familiar, right? Issei, yes, why? Ravel, are you supposed to have said that you had some marks on your hands as a sign of the contract with Lise? Issei, what does that have to do with anything? Ravel, I don't see any mark. At that point, he started to examine the hand that should have had the mark, only to realize that it didn't have it. At that point, he decided to ask his tenants if any of them had any idea what had happened to him. Issei, Drake Derflinger. Drake, what's up, buddy? Issei, what happens is that the familiar mark that appeared when Louise made the contract with me is no longer there, and I wanted to know if one of you had any idea what happened. Derflinger, honestly, mate, I don't know what happened. This is the first time I've seen this happen. Usually, the marks are erased from the body when the host dies, but this isn't your case. Drake, I think I know what happened. Issei, and what was Drake? Drake, according to what I understand regarding familiars, they become a familiar since they recognize the person as their master since he demonstrated it with his power. But you are much more powerful than Louise and you love her, but you did not recognize her as a master. That is why I think that by increasing your power, since now you control the Juggernaut, and it is a greater power than before. Issei, I understand, but is there no way to recover it? Drake, buddy, I think what you should do is redo the contract between you. Issei, thank you. At that point, Issei returns to the outside and tells them what he had talked about with Drake and Derfinger about the mark and why it wasn't there and how to get it back. They also talked about how to tell Louise this, but at that point, they are interrupted because Louise's sisters arrive. Katla, hello Issei, I'm glad you're okay. It's been a long time since we last saw each other. Issei, likewise, Katla, it's a pleasure to see you. Eleanor, you don't have to say unnecessary things. We're here to take Louise. At that moment, Eleanor sees that Louise was talking to Kerchi about what had happened to her in the battle, and she decides to go talk to her about the matter that they were looking for her. Eleanor, Louise, we're going home. The war is over. Besides, you need to rest a little. Louise, but one Sama. Eleanor, besides, I'm fed up with you being here with the commoners. At that, Eleanor points to Issei, Rosweiss, and Ravel who were behind them. Louise, but he's my boyfriend, I like him. Eleanor, do you really like this familiar? Louise, yes, but that's something you don't care about. At that moment, Eleanor, seeing how her sister was talking to her, began to pull her cheek. Eleanor, what? How dare you speak to me like that? Louise, hi, sorry. Katla, Eleanor Nisama. At that, Anise goes to where Louise, Issei, and the others were since she had something to inform them. Anise, I'm sorry to interrupt while you're busy. Anise, captain of the Musketeer Corps, I'm here to deliver a message from the Queen. Seeing that Anise had come to give her a message from the Queen, which was important, Eleanor released Louise to pay attention to her. Anise, Louise Françoise Leblanc de la Valliere, and her familiar Hayato Issei must head to the palace immediately. Louise, the princess? Time jump, now we meet Issei and Louise who were alone in a carriage heading to the kingdom. They were alone since Rosweiss stayed to keep Ravel and Kaneko company, who was still somewhat depressed because she had lost the love of her senpai. Meanwhile, with Issei, he was about to tell Louise about the mark. Issei, Louise. Louise, what's going on, Issei? Issei, there's something important we need to talk about, Louise. Louise, what is Issei? Issei, what's happening, Louise, is that the familiar marks I had on my hand have been erased. At that, Issei shows his hand to Louise and she sees that the marks of Gandalf's familiar were no longer there, and Louise, seeing it, begins to worry. Louise, what happened, Issei? Issei, according to what I understood from Drake and Derflinger is that the marks were erased since I had much more power than before, and then I no longer recognize you as my master. Louise, what do you mean, Issei? So you don't love me anymore? At that, Louise's eyes begin to shed small tears, as she thought Issei no longer loved her. At that, Issei takes her chin and kisses her with much love, and then they separate due to lack of air. Issei, never say that, Louise, you are one of the people I love most in my life. Louise, but what will we do with the family marks? Issei, according to Drake, we just have to do the familiar ritual so that I recognize you as my master. Then they see how the carriage begins to stop near a lake. Anise, we'll take a short break. At that, Issei and Louise get out of the carriage and go for a walk through the forest to meet him. Anise, don't go too far. Then the two begin their walk through the forest. After a few minutes of walking, they arrive at a small clearing and decide to sit down. Louise sees some flowers and takes one. She then sits next to Issei, who hugs her. Louise, hello, Issei? Issei, yes, Louise. Louise, will you still be by my side even though you can no longer be my family member? Issei, Louise, no matter what happens I will not separate from you because I love you. In that, Issei kisses Louise and after a few seconds they spear each other. Louise, I love you too, Issei. After that, Louise rests her head on Issei's chest to rest, but after a few minutes, Issei feels that an unknown presence was approaching where they were, and then he sees a small armor that was staring at them. When Issei sees them, he wakes Louise up. Louise, what's wrong, Issei? Why did you wake me up? At that, Issei sees the mini knight who was watching them. Louise, a red-headed monkey? What's he doing here? At that moment, the Arubi takes out his sword and points it at Issei and Louise. Seeing the Arubi's actions, they stand up and Issei stands in front of Louise and summons Derflinger and gets into a battle stance. However, they hear the voice of a strange person in the place. Issei had not been able to feel its presence. Unknown, it's a pleasure to meet you, Miss Valier, the great successor of the Void. Louise, who are you? How dirty, tell me your name. Unknown, actually, just call me Sheffield. At that, Louise feels the presence behind them and prepares to launch a fire attack. Louise, don't joke. Sheffield, stop, my doll will kill them before you attack. At that, Louise sees that the doll is approaching her quickly, but Issei moves faster and kicks the doll, throwing it against the trees, and then summons his gauntlet and shoots a dragon shot at it, destroying it. Issei, what doll are you talking about? At that moment, some stone gargoyles appear with a mark of emptiness on their chests and begin to surround Louise and Issei. Sheffield, I'm here to take you. My master wishes to have a pretty void user now. Come with us. Issei, as if I would let you take Louise. At that, Issei activates the balance breaker, surprising Sheffield. After that, he charges 3 boosts and launches a powerful dragon shot against the gargoyles, reducing them to nothing more than dust. But at that, Sheffield gets behind Louise, taking advantage of Issei's distraction. Sheffield, too bad I can control all the magic items. But then Issei quickly appears next to Sheffield, landing a strong blow to his ribs, which causes him to fly towards some trees, but upon impact, a small smoke screen rises, so that after it disappears, they see that he wasn't there. Sheffield, that was a strong blow but not enough to defeat me. Louise, why are you attacking us? What do you want with me? Sheffield, my first reason is that you're not the only user of the Void. That means there's no single Void familiar. Do you want me to tell you more? At that moment, Sheffield appears on one of the branches of a nearby tree. Sheffield, I am Misunderstanding. At that, Sheffield takes off the hood that covered his face, revealing some marks that shine on his forehead. Louise, that's it. Sheffield, I'm also known as the Brain of God. That's correct, I'm a familiar of the Void, the familiar of some noble. Well, enough talk. At that moment, 2 other gargoyles appear and attack Louise, but she destroys one with a lightning spell, while the other one dodges it and tries to attack, but Issei cuts it in half. Sheffield, I hadn't noticed you're the one who destroyed the army of more than 70,000 soldiers. Issei, and what does that matter to you? Sheffield, from what I can feel you are not her relative, but why? At that moment, Sheffield begins to hear a voice speaking to him. Unknown, Misunderstanding, please step back for now. Sheffield, I love Joseph. Joseph, not all the pieces are present to fully enjoy it. We need all the pieces. I think you can do it. Sheffield, I understand. Everything will be as you wish. In that, Louise, to finish them all off, launches a void attack that, thanks to the help of the augmentations that Issei transferred to her, she was able to do it more quickly because she didn't need to gather more power. When she launches it, she destroys all the gargoyles that remained in the place, but in that she notices that Sheffield had disappeared. After that, Issei falls to the ground on his knees, since it was still difficult for him to control all that power. Issei, Louise. At that point, Issei approaches where Louise was and picks her up bridal style. After taking her, he takes her back to the carriage in which Anise was waiting for them. When he sees them, he runs to see what happened. Then, Issei tells Anise everything that happened, and then they set off again towards the Queen's palace. Time jump, now we find ourselves in the Queen's palace where Issei and Louise have just arrived. Anise, we're back. Then they enter the room where the Queen was, and upon doing so they see that it was empty. The only thing in it was a table and a chair that served as a desk. After that, the Queen goes to Louise and hugs her since she was happy that they were here. Henrietta, Louise, Issei. Louise, Princess, what is this? Henrietta, because of the war, all the capital's funds were exhausted. I sold the furniture to be able to help the people even a little. Louise, Princess, you really sacrificed so much. At that moment, the princess approaches Louise and takes her hands. Henrietta, no, I almost lost you. I don't want to depend only on your power, and Issei's. I put you in great danger. I don't know how I should apologize. Louise, Princess, don't worry, please. Henrietta, thank you, Louise. At that, Henrietta, while still holding Louise's hands, looks at Issei, who is behind Louise, looking at them. Henrietta, no matter how many times I thank you, it will never be enough. Issei, don't worry, princess, I would never let anything happen to you or Louise. When Henrietta heard this, she blushed slightly and smiled a little, but this went unnoticed by everyone. Henrietta, you are the hero who saved Tristan. At that, Henrietta takes out a piece of paper that was a diploma and hands it to Issei. Issei, what is this? Henrietta, this is a chevalier, an assignment document so you can become my knight. Issei, assignment document? Henrietta, it is necessary to give something to a hero, will you accept it? Issei, thank you, princess. Then Issei puts the certificate in one of his pockets. Louise, congratulations Issei, you are now a noble. Issei, thanks, although it doesn't matter, I'll still be with you. Henrietta, now changing the subject, there is something I would like to ask you, Anise. Anise, whatever, princess. Henrietta, while we were still at war, several soldiers reported being saved by an elf or fairy. I would like you to investigate those cases, please. Anise, where did they happen? Henrietta, they were in the kingdom of Albion, in the area of southern Gotha, Weptop village. Anise, it's okay, princess. After that, Issei and Louise decided to return to the academy since it was late. After a while they arrived at the academy. Louise went to sleep in her room while Issei went to talk to Rosweiss about how things were here while he was not there. She was in one of the towers looking at the sky and he approached from behind and wrapped his arms around her waist, which surprised Rosweiss, but after seeing who it was, she turned around and kissed Issei for a few seconds and then separated. Issei, how were you, Rosjan? Rosweiss, everything was calm with the girls. I was showing them the academy while we were talking. Issei, I see, I'm glad to hear that. Rosweiss, although I'm worried about Kaneko. Issei, why? Rosweiss, he's been very sad since he arrived and before coming here, according to what Ravel told me, he was the same or worse. Issei, I see. Rosweiss, Issei, I'm not asking you to forgive her or love her again. I just want you to talk to her, even if she was wrong to have that stupid idea. She's still a young man and I'm worried about her. Issei, don't worry Rosjan, I'll talk to her tomorrow. Rosweiss, thanks Issei. In that Rosweiss kisses Issei and he reciprocates that kiss. It started as something tender but then became more lustful until they separated, joined by a thread of saliva. Issei, I love you Rosweiss. Rosweiss, I love you too Issei. Then they kiss again but then they separate because Rosweiss remembered that if she saw Issei's siesta she had asked him to tell him that she was looking for him to talk. Rosweiss, Issei. Issei, what's wrong Rosjan? Rosweiss, it's that siesta told me she wanted to talk to you. Issei, I see, it's not too late yet. I'll go see what it's about, while you go to sleep, Rosjan. After that, Rosweiss went to the room to sleep while Issei went in search of a nap. She was hanging some clothes that she had just finished washing. Seeing her distracted, Issei approached carefully so as not to attract attention, and when he was behind her, he covered her eyes. Issei, who am I? Nap Issei. At that, Issei takes out the hands that were covering Siesta's eyes, then turns her over and kisses her. The action corresponds to a happy siesta. After a few minutes, they separate. Issei, and why were you looking for me, Siesta-chan? Hearing the suffix chan, she couldn't help but feel a slight blush on her cheeks. Siesta, you see, what happens is that I wanted to spend more time with you. Issei, oh I see, so you want to be with me, what do you think about us being alone tonight, just the two of us? Siesta, upon hearing that, can't help but turn as red as a tomato at what Issei was suggesting. Siesta, are you serious? Issei, yes, tonight it will just be you and me, and we will do everything you want. Siesta, it's okay. Lemon skipped. After that, Issei and Siesta continued having hex for several more rounds while trying different positions until after a while they couldn't take it anymore and fell asleep with Siesta on Issei's chest. Chapter 32, An Elf? Now we find ourselves in Siesta's room where issei was sleeping with Siesta on his chest since they had just had a night of passion between them, but in that the sun's rays begin to wake issei, who upon doing so sees that Siesta was on him and wakes her up. Issei, nap awake. Nap 5 more minutes. Issei, if you don't wake up, we won't repeat this for a while. Upon hearing that, Siesta quickly gets out of bed since she didn't want to have to wait until she could have hex with issei again. Issei, good morning Siesta. Issei, good morning issei. Then issei goes to where she was napping and kisses her. Issei, I'm going to shower first since I have to go meet Ines for a mission. Siesta, it's okay. At that, issei enters the shower. After a while, we find ourselves at the entrance of the academy where issei, Rasweiss, Louise, and Ines were gathered. They were about to leave for the city of South Gotha in search of the elf who had been responsible for helping in the war by healing the wounded. Louise, issei. Issei, yes, Louise. Louise, where were you last night? Issei, hey, I was having a nap. Rasweiss, that's why you didn't sleep with us last night. Issei, I'm sorry. Rasweiss, issei, you'll have to compensate us for leaving us. Issei, okay, I'll do whatever you want. Louise, really? Issei, yes. Rasweiss, then we'll be waiting for you tonight. Upon hearing that, issei couldn't help but imagine everything that would happen that night, and couldn't help but blush. Ines, if you're done talking, it's time to get going. In that, everyone gets into the carriage and they set off to the city of South Gotha. On the trip, issei sat in the middle of the girls. Louise was on issei's left side, resting her head on issei's legs while resting. While Rasweiss was on his right side, Rasweiss was leaning on issei's shoulder, also resting. After a while, Ines stops since they couldn't advance any further today. The boys get off to help Ines set up camp. Issei went for firewood while Ines stayed to clear the ground and secure the horses. While Louise and Rasweiss went to get water and then start preparing food. Louise, all Rasweiss. Rasweiss, what's up Louise? Louise, do you understand more about issei's relationship with those who came with him? Rasweiss, yes, why? Louise, could you explain the situation to me? Rasweiss, why so much interest? Louise, I'm just worried about him. Rasweiss, why? Louise, one of them was responsible for issei's suffering and the other didn't trust me. Rasweiss, I understand you. Louise, so please tell me everything that happened between them. Rasweiss, it's okay. At that point, Rasweiss begins to tell her how issei met Kaneko, and then Ravel. After a while, Louise already understood more about the situation issei had at the moment regarding the two of them. Louise, thanks Rasweiss. Rasweiss, hello Louise. Louise, what's going on? Rasweiss, can I ask you something now? Louise, what thing? Rasweiss, what would you do if issei decides to be with them? Louise, what do you mean? Rasweiss, I bet issei hasn't had any problems with Ravel and I know that she's in love with him, and Kaneko is still in love with him just like the rest. What would you do if issei forgives them and they get back together? Louise, I don't know, and you're Rasweiss? Rasweiss, I love issei, that's why I'll support him whatever he decides, but I'll make sure that if they hurt him again, they'll pay me. Louise, I think I'm with you. In that they arrive at where the camp was being formed and they see that issei was also arriving with firewood for the fire. After a while, issei was sitting by the fire while Louise was helping Rasweiss cook while Ines was sitting in front of issei on the other side of the fire carving some sticks. After a while, the food was ready. Rasweiss, issei and Ines' dinner is ready. At that, issei and Ines went to where they were, then they sat down to eat around the fire. Louise sat to the left of issei and Rasweiss to the right while they talked. Issei, Ines, do you have any information about what the elf is like? Ines, according to the reports given by those who were saved by her, she has blonde hair, green eyes, and what stands out the most is that she has big tits. Issei, I see. After that, they finished eating and Louise decided to go sleep in the carriage and Rasweiss also accompanied her since they did not want to sleep outdoors. At that point, issei sits next to a tree to talk with his tenants. Issei, Drake Derflinger. Drake, what's up, buddy? Issei, everyone has a different energy depending on the species they belong to, right? Derflinger, I know what you mean, buddy. If the elf has a different energy, we can help you identify it. Issei, you got it right. Drake, at the moment I haven't felt any unknown or dangerous energy, so we will let you know when we are near the elf. Issei, thanks Drake. At that, Issei leaves his mental space since he felt that someone was talking to him outside. When he comes out, he sees that the person who was talking to him was Anise, who gives Issei a wooden sword. Issei, what is this for? Anise, if you lost the mark, your abilities must have decreased. I want to see how much they decreased. Issei, are you sure? Anise, yes. At that, Issei gets up and puts himself in a fighting stance while Anise imitated him, and at that Anise launches himself against Issei, and he blocks the attack that Anise had launched at him. After that, Issei decides to counterattack by launching a horizontal cut which is blocked by Anise with the lower part of his sword. Anise, I see that your abilities didn't decrease much. Issei, before the marks I already knew how to fight, so don't think I depend only on those marks. After their brief talk, they resumed their fight where Issei attacked and defended at the same time. Anise was in trouble because although Issei lost the Gandalf marks that helped him in the handling of weapons, he apparently had not lost almost any of his ability, which is why he was winning the fight. While they were fighting, they were observed by Louise, who was sitting in one of the seats while in the other Rosweiss was sleeping. She was thinking about what she had talked about with Rosweiss regarding the decision that Issei would make regarding Ravel and Kaneko. Louise, what are you going to do, Issei? After that, she lies down on the seat and begins to rest while Issei and Anise continued training for a while, but then Issei ended up winning the fight against Anise since he took advantage of an oversight on Anise's part due to a feint that Issei made with a downward cut, but when he descended, this changed the direction of the sword and ended in a horizontal cut impacting Anise's ribs, causing her to fall to the ground from the blow, and Issei wins the fight. At that, Issei approaches where Anise was and offers his hand to help him get up. Anise, thank you. Issei, it's nothing, I think it would be better to leave it for today. Anise, you're right. Then Issei and Anise go to where the fire was and get ready to sleep, but Anise approaches where Issei was before he went to bed. Anise, Issei, can we talk? Issei, what's going on, Anise? Anise, what happens is that I was interested in the girls who came with you when you returned from the confrontation against the Albion forces. Issei, what do Ravel and Kaneko have? Anise, I want to know what relationship you have with them. Issei, I see. At that, Issei begins to tell him his whole story, where he told him how he met Kaneko, how he confronted Ravel's brother to free his master from the commitment, how he helped Kaneko with her sister, and so he continued telling his whole story. Issei, and that's my story? Anise, I see, what are you planning to do about it? Issei, what do you mean? Anise, I mean, what are you going to do with Kaneko and Ravel? Issei, well, with Ravel I think I'll give her a chance since she was faithful to me since I couldn't see her because of her job as my manager, but with Kaneko I don't know. After that they went to bed since it was too late for them with practice, and then with the talk, and tomorrow they would have to continue with the trip to the city of South Gotha. It is already morning and Issei and the girls are ready to leave. Anise, if we continue at this pace, we will reach the city of Gotha del Sur by sunset. Issei, understood. With that, they finished packing up their things and set off towards the city of Gotha del Sur. After a while riding in the carriage, it was already starting to get dark, which indicated that they should be near the town. Anise, the town of Weston is nearby, be aware of the surroundings. At that moment, Issei's gauntlet appears and Drake starts talking to him. Drake, mate, I feel a strong magical presence nearby. Issei, where are you coming from? Drake, a few meters into the forest on your right. At that, Issei summons his dragon wings. Issei, wait, I'll go check what Drake said. At that, Issei flies out of where they were and begins to search for the source of that magic. After a few minutes he finds it. It turns out to be a blonde girl with great attributes. She was walking through the forest, so Issei decides to descend so that she doesn't see his wings. After landing, he approaches her. Issei, wait. At that, the girl turns around to where Issei was. Seeing her, Issei blushes slightly, just like the girl did when she saw Issei. Unknown, who are you? And what do you want? Issei, my name is Hayato Issei and I'm looking for an elf who helped the Tristanen warriors a short time ago. Unknown, why are you looking for her? Issei, the princess sent me to look for her because she wanted to thank her for her help. Unknown, I see, I think you already found it. Issei, so it's you? Unknown, yes. In that she shows her elf ears which were longer than a normal person's. Issei, what is your name? Unknown, my name is Tiffany. Issei, Tiffany, would you do me a favor and accompany me? Tiffania, it's okay. At that Issei begins to head towards the girls, being followed by Tiffania while they were talking. After a while they arrive at where the girls were, who were happy when they saw Issei. Louise, Issei, where did you go in such a hurry? But who is she? Issei, Drake told me that there was a strong presence of magic nearby, so I decided to go investigate it, and with respect to her, her name is Tiffania and she is the elf we were looking for. Rosweiss, I see, I guess now we just have to take her to the princess. Issei, yes. Anise, it's already very late, it would be best to camp and leave tomorrow. Tiffania, if you like, there's a cabin not far from here that I've been using. Issei, thanks Tiffany. Then everyone heads to the cabin that Tiffany had mentioned. At night, they start talking to get to know each other. Rosweiss, my name is Rosweiss, nice to meet you, Tiffany. Tiffania, thank you. Louise, my name is Louise de la Valliere, nice to meet you. Tiffania, thank you. So the girls continued talking while outside Issei and Anise were standing guard while they talked. Issei, Anise, I have a question. Anise, what Issei? Issei, I was wondering if you've fallen in love? Anise, upon hearing that question, a slight blush forms on her cheeks. Anise, what is the purpose of that question? Issei, I want to know you more, besides I've always seen you alone, that's why I had the doubt. Anise, I don't know if it's love that I feel. Issei, why do you say that? Anise, I don't know what I feel. Issei, what do you feel, Anise? At that point, Anise starts to get more nervous and blushes a little more because of the direction the conversation was taking. Anise, well, when I get close to him, I start to get a little nervous. I also like to spend time with him, and my heart races and I worry when sometimes he's going to fight alone, and I feel a pain in my chest. Issei, I see if you are in love with him, and have thought about declaring it. Anise, no. Issei, why? Anise, he already has partners. Issei, what do you mean by couples? Anise, he's in a relationship with more than one woman. Issei, if he is in a relationship like that, don't you think you have a chance? Anise, I don't know. Issei, and who is he? That's when Anise gets too nervous. Anise, it doesn't matter. Issei, come on, tell me. Anise, no. Issei, please tell me. Anise, it's okay, it's you. Issei, I like you. You're strong and you care about others, even if you put yourself in danger. That's what made me fall in love. Issei was in shock. Anise had just declared his love to her, and he stood still. When Anise saw him, she thought that he would reject her and she started to get up to leave, but then something stopped her. She turned around and saw that it was Issei who was holding her hand. Then he got up and pulled her towards him, bringing her closer and then kissing her. Anise was surprised by the kiss, but after a few seconds she started to reciprocate. After a few minutes they separated due to lack of air, a thread of saliva joining them. Issei, Anise, I like you too. Anise, but Issei and Louise and Rosweiss. Issei, don't worry, they will understand. Anise, but... At that Issei kisses Anise again. Rosweiss, Louise and Tiffania went out to see what was happening outside since they heard something happening. When they left, the girls saw how Issei was kissing Anise and she was blushing on her cheeks. At that, Rosweiss sounds her throat, calling the attention of the two. Rosweiss, Issei, I think you owe us an explanation. Louise, and it better be a very good one. In that, Issei sees the girls who emanated an aura that made him afraid. Issei, girls, I can explain. Rosweiss, we hope so. At that, Rosweiss and Louise take Issei by the arms and take him inside the cabin to chat, while Annie stays outside with a blush on her cheeks next to Tiffania, who was afraid to enter because of the girl's attitude. After Issei explained what happened with Anise and that he reciprocated her feelings, the girls had to accept it. Rosweiss, well, I think there's no other option. Louise, so another one for the harem. Rosweiss, I hope this doesn't become a habit for you, Issei. Issei, I'm sorry girls, but I promise it won't become a habit. After that, the girls go to Anise and begin to talk to her about Issei and since when she was in love with him, and why. It is worth mentioning that Tiffania also joined him. But while they were talking, Issei feels a hostile presence approaching them. He looks out the window and sees how many wolves were surrounding them. Issei, girls, we have problems. Anise, what's going on, Issei? Issei, we are surrounded. It seems that they are summons, which means that the owner must be around here. Rosweiss, what do we do, Issei? Issei, Rosweiss, Louise, stay inside and protect Tiffania. Anise and I will go out to attack. Louise, it's okay, be careful. At that, Issei summons Derflinger and goes out to fight the wolves along with Anise. When they go out, they see that there are too many of them. At that time, the wolves begin to attack them by jumping on them. But Issei and Anise cut them off first, and so they continued fighting while the girls who were inside the cabin supported them with spells against the wolves. At that time, they hear someone speaking to them. Unknown, void user, hurry up and shout with that cute voice. Louise, that voice, it's Sheffield. Sheffield, if you are a smart girl, hurry up and shout for help because your guardian is very busy. At that moment, some wolves come in through the windows and surround the girls. Sheffield, the other void user should be around here. Louise, another one? At that moment, one of the wolves jumps to attack Louise, but Rosweiss avoids it with her sword and kills it instantly. Sheffield, thinking, how strange, I no longer feel the presence of emptiness. At that moment, Issei and Anise enter the room to help the Sheffield girls. Seeing that they are overwhelmed, they decide to retreat, and the few remaining wolves disappear. Issei, are you girls okay? Louise, yes. Rosweiss, yes, we are fine. Issei, what would Sheffield have wanted here? Louise, I mention another user of the void. Issei, another one? Rosweiss, yes. Issei, I see. I think for now it would be best to rest and leave tomorrow. Anise, I'll be on guard, you rest. At that, Anise leaves the room, leaving Issei with the girls, who begin to prepare to sleep. After that, they lie down next to Issei while Tiffania lay down on the other side of the room. The next day, Issei and the girls get ready to return to the queen. Anise, are you ready? Issei, girls are ready. Rosweiss, yes. Issei, and what about you, Tiffany? Tiffania, yes, I'm ready. Issei, then let's go. Then Issei and the girls along with Tiffania set off. Chapter 33 Premium? Now we are on our way to Queen Issei's palace. He was sitting between Louise and Rosweiss, who were sleeping, leaning on him, while he was talking to Tiffania, who was somewhat distracted. Issei, are you okay? Are you dizzy? Tiffania, no, it's just that it's the first time I've traveled so far from home, so I feel a little insecure. Issei, from now on we will move further away. Will you be okay? Tiffania, we're not heading to the kingdom of Tristein, right? Issei, and your family? Have you lived all this time alone in that place? Tiffania, my mother passed away. Issei, sorry, I didn't know. Tiffania, it must be fate. I've always wanted to see more of this vast world. Time jump, now we find ourselves at the entrance to the princess's castle. Everyone was awake because they would soon arrive, while Tiffania was amazed looking out the window since for her the castle was something surprising. Then the carriage stops at the entrance, and everyone gets off. Tiffania, surprising. Issei, it's true, it's the first time you've seen it. This is where Queen Henrietta lives. Tiffania, I see. Then they enter the castle and head to where the queen was. They were advancing until they reach a room and decide to enter. When they do, they see the queen who was looking out the window. Then they enter and everyone kneels and Anise speaks. Anise, your majesty, we have returned. Henrietta, I'm happy everyone came back safe and sound. After that, Henrietta goes to where Louise was kneeling and puts her hands on her shoulders. Henrietta, I was worried about you. Louise, princess, those words are too much for me. After that, Henrietta separates from Louise and stands in front of where Issei was. Henrietta, Issei, seeing that you're safe is the best of all. At that, Henrietta extends her hand to Issei's front, and he takes it with his own and gives her a kiss, which makes the princess blush slightly, imperceptibly. Henrietta, the marks of Gandalf. Issei, don't worry, princess, I've already found a solution. Saying this, the girls are surprised, especially Louise, who is happy because it means that she would be her family again. Henrietta, what is that solution? Issei, Louise would do the summoning ritual again while concentrating a little of my energy on the spell. That should work. Rosweiss, how are you sure, Issei? Issei, it's something I was talking about with Drake. Flashback starts. Issei was sitting in the forest after the combat practice that Issei had with Innes. He was sitting leaning against a tree while talking to Drake. Issei, Drake, have you thought of something to solve Louise and my problem? Drake, you mean being his family again? Issei, yes. Drake, why do you want to be his familiar again? Issei, it's that I love Louise and I want to help her, but she is very proud and at the same time she is also very insecure. That is why this is important for her, since she finally managed to get the summoning spell right, and now that it has vanished I think that it could affect her. Drake, I see. Honestly, mate, I think there is a solution. Issei, what is it? Drake, the problem was that you are too powerful and you did not recognize Louise as your master. So the way to fix it would be for you to give Louise some augmentations so that she would have enough power for you to become her new familiar. Issei, how many increases would I have to give him? Drake, I think 4 would be enough, but you would have to reduce your power to a minimum for it to work. Issei, I see, but wouldn't it have negative consequences if he gives Louise so much power? Drake, I don't think so. What could happen is that by giving him so much power his magical reserves would grow, and he would be able to use void magic with less problems. Issei, I see, I think I'll do it. Flashback ends. Rosweiss, so what Louise has to do is just summon you again while you give her power, right? Issei, yes. Louise, I will. At that, everyone goes out to the castle courtyard to perform the summoning again. First, Issei summons his booster gear and charges 4 increases to then transfer them to Louise, who, upon receiving the power, has a cold chill because of the amount of it. Issei, ready, Louise? Louise, yes. Rosweiss, I wish you luck, Louise. At that, Louise begins the familiar summoning ritual. A star appears inside a pentagon on the white ground and Louise begins to cast the spell. Louise, the pentagon that contains the 5 powers, please bless this person and allow him to become my familiar. Then Louise kisses Issei. This was a kiss full of love. After a few seconds they separate and stare into each other's eyes until suddenly Issei's right hand begins to hurt and Gandalf's runes begin to be engraved on it. After that, Issei falls to his knees from the pain and some tiredness. Louise, did it work? At that, Issei shows the marks to Louise, and when she sees them she jumps on top of Issei and hugs him, and then kisses him because she is so happy. Then they separate since everyone was watching them. At that, Issei looks at Rosweiss and Innes, who were jealous watching how Issei kissed Louise. At that, Issei goes to where Rosweiss was and takes her by the waist and brings her closer to him, and then kisses her in a kiss full of passion. After a few minutes, due to lack of air, they separate with a thread of saliva between the two. Issei, better? Rosweiss, yes. After that, Issei separates from Rosweiss and goes to where Innes was, who was blushing and nervous about what Issei had just done with Rosweiss, and now came towards her. She took a few steps back to get away from Issei, but he takes her hand and pulls her towards him and kisses her on the lips, which surprises Innes since she still did not get used to being one of Issei's partners. But after a few seconds she reciprocates the kiss by putting her arms around Issei's neck, and after a few minutes they separate. It is worth mentioning that Princess Henrietta was surprised by the relationship between Innes and Issei, and at the same time she was angry since she felt jealous of this. Henrietta, well, now that we're done there's still another ceremony to perform. Louise, what ceremony? Henrietta, the ceremony of appointing Issei as a chevalier. In that, everyone goes to the throne room to perform the ceremony of naming Issei as a Knight of Chevalier. After a while they have everything ready. Now we see how Issei was kneeling in front of the queen, and she was with a scepter in her hand which was golden, and at the end there was a gem which was locked in a small cage. The girls were behind watching everything. Henrietta, lower your head. At that, Issei lowers his head and the princess places the scepter on Issei's right shoulder. Henrietta, I, Henrietta, Queen of Tristan, grant this person the title of knight. Do you swear loyalty? Issei, I swear. Henrietta, in the name of Pioneer Brimir, you are now a chevalier. At that, Issei stands up since the princess had removed the scepter from his shoulder. Henrietta, now you have become my knight. Issei, Chevalier de Hayato, please grant me your strength. Issei, yes. Henrietta, go ahead. At that, Louise puts a black cape like the one she used on Issei, which meant that now he was a noble. After that, Henrietta gives Issei a letter which was addressed to Siesta. After that, Issei presents Tiffany to the queen. He had forgotten about it since he was distracted with the familiar ritual, and then with the appointment of Chevalier. Issei, by the way, princess, this is Tiffany, whom you were looking for. At that, Tiffany goes to where the princess was and kneels in front of her while looking at the ground. Tiffania, I am Tiffany, this is the first time we have met, your majesty. Henrietta, welcome to the kingdom of Trine. The long journey must have been hard, and I'm sorry for postponing our meeting with the ceremonies. Tiffania, don't worry, your majesty. Henrietta, but I can't see your face well. Louise, hat? It's rude of you to wear your hat in front of his majesty. Tiffania, there's a reason for that. Louise, I've been noticing that for quite some time. At that, Tiffany gets up. Tiffania, I'm sorry. At that moment, Tiffany takes off her hat, showing her elf ears to the princess, and she gets nervous because everyone is staring at her. Henrietta, an elf? Louise, elf? Are you an elf? Tiffania, sorry, I wasn't planning on hiding it, so it's scary. You all hate elves, don't you? Henrietta, it seems you have a motive. At that, Henrietta approaches Tiffany and puts her hands on her shoulders. Henrietta, could you please tell me? Tiffania, yes. Then they go out to be more comfortable. Now we are in the courtyard of the castle. We can see how Tiffany is looking at her reflection in a river, and the others are behind her. Tiffania, I'm actually half-elf. My mother, who passed away, was an elf. She was also the lover of the Archduke of Albion. It was she who told me not to let other people see me and to live a quiet life. Henrietta, the Archduke of Albion. At that, Princess Henrietta stands next to Tiffany. Henrietta, I'm not going to discriminate against you because you're a Tiffania elf. You're the person who helped the people of my town. Don't worry, in the kingdom of Tristein I'll become your shield. Upon hearing this, Tiffany is surprised and happy, then she stands up and looks directly at Princess Henrietta. Tiffania, your majesty, thank you so much, I can't find the words to express my gratitude. Henrietta, there's no need to be so formal, let's have tea together. Now we are in a small cabin. Henrietta, Anise, you too, the mission must have been difficult, did everything go without a problem? Anise, I was worried that it might cause His Majesty unnecessary worries, so I didn't report everything that happened. To tell the truth, there was another battle. Henrietta, what happened? Louise, let me explain, actually that woman. Henrietta, Sheffield, the one who attacked you before? Louise, if he threatened me to tell him the location of the other Void user. Henrietta, another Void user? Anise, I think the enemy has information that we don't know. This woman called Sheffield is very strong, and could be a danger if we ignore her. Henrietta, if she is really that strong, we would have to hear about her, there would have to be rumors and gossip among the nobles, so don't let your guard down and stay alert. I will also try to gather some information. Anise, please be careful. Henrietta, thanks Anise. Meanwhile, in a castle far from where Issei and the girls were, we can see how someone is standing in front of a giant map of everything. In that, he takes a ceramic piece with the shape of a girl that was on the map, brings it closer, and begins to speak. Unknown, my Mayas Nitnern, I'm starting to think about you. Then he puts the ceramic figurine back on the map. Unknown, so another Void user, it's not easy to put those pieces together. Sheffield, sorry to keep you waiting. Unknown, no. I don't mind doing it because all a useless king can do is wait. Sheffield, he's quite the joker. Unknown, ha ha ha. Sheffield, I apologize if I could find the other void user. At that, Sheffield kneels before the stranger. Unknown, don't be so anxious. We'll find out the other identity of the void user sooner or later. I'll leave it in your hands. Sheffield, your words are so kind. Unknown, stands up Misunderstanding. Sheffield: yes. At that, Sheffield gets back on its feet. Unknown, I will soon be participating in a drama at the Intercontinental Conference. Tristein, Germania and Gallia will fight for the lands of Albion. Unknown, it doesn't matter. I'll let them who have shown their greed take it. Since I'm someone useless, I'll sit there while I let time pass. Sheffield, if you need someone to comfort you, look for me. Please allow me to do it. Unknown, it's true I've already lost interest in Albion. Returning to our protagonists, we now find ourselves in the castle courtyard next to the river. It is already afternoon, and we can see them talking. Henrietta, is it true that Sheffield said there is another void user? Louise, yes, but I don't know what's going on. Henrietta, if what you say is true, there are other users of the void. Do you know anything about Tiffany? At that moment, everyone looked at where Tiffany was. She was sitting on the riverbank looking at her reflection. Henrietta, Tiffany? Tiffany, I don't know. I don't really understand what's going on in this world. Henrietta, what were you looking at just now? At that point, Tiffany shows them a ring she had on her hand. Henrietta, a ring? Shouldn't there be a jewel mounted on it? Tiffany, my mother left me this. The jewel disappeared when I was helping the wounded soldiers. Louise, you're really not someone common to have such a precious ring. Tiffany, it's nothing, I did what I had to do. My mother taught me to help people when they are in trouble, that's why. Henrietta, magic is the only thing that can heal such serious wounds. That power is elven magic, isn't it? Tiffany, yes. Henrietta, if you have elven blood, you should be able to use magic, right? Like void magic or something like that. At that point, Tiffany begins to remember her past. Flashback starts. We are in an old cabin, and we can hear someone talking. Unknown, we will not give up, we elves, we do not approve of disputes. Suddenly, screams are heard everywhere, and we can see a small Tiffany hidden inside a piece of furniture. Flashback ends. When she finishes remembering, Tiffany gets scared and takes a few steps back, moving away from everyone. Tiffany, I can't do anything like that. Henrietta, this is very important. Tiffany, I'm sorry. Please let me rest a little. At that, Tiffany turns around and runs away. Louise, Tiffany. Issei, wait, Louise. Louise, why? Issei, she has things she doesn't want to talk about. At times like these it's better to leave her alone. Meanwhile, in another part of the world, returning with the blue-haired stranger, he was on a balcony. It was already night, and he was looking into the distance. Unknown, fame and money are empty things, big banquets, a huge garden, and the music that's always playing. At that he goes to a small table that was nearby, and on it there was a small blue chest with golden details. He opens it and music starts to play. Unknown, for me, it's all useless. The pioneer music box, the other user of the void should be able to hear the melody you play in this way. Meanwhile, returning to the castle in Trine, everyone was sleeping except Issei. He was lying alone in a bed since they were smaller, and he couldn't sleep with the girls. But suddenly he started to hear a song accompanied by the beautiful sound of a harp. Unknown, God's right hand, Gandalf so brave, God's shield, God's right hand, Windalf a kind of heart, God's flute. Issei was following where such a beautiful song was coming from. While doing so, he arrived at one of the castle's viewpoints where Tiffany was playing the beautiful song while singing. Issei, it's a rather mysterious song. Tiffany, sorry, did I wake you up? Issei, it's okay, anyway I couldn't sleep, can I sit next to you? Tiffany, of course. Issei, tell me, Tiffany. Tiffany, it's hard to pronounce, isn't it? Just call me Tifa. Issei, sure. Tiffany, It's mysterious. The moon I see from the forest is exactly the same one I see from this balcony. Issei, Tifa, have I dragged you into a problematic situation? Tiffania, I had moved into that little cabin in the woods 4 years ago, and I had always been alone. I had thought it would always be like this. Issei, are you regretting it? Well, I feel bad because I think I dragged you into a very problematic situation. I'm sorry, Tifa. Tiffania, it's not your fault. Besides, I wanted to see the outside world. Issei, really? Tiffania, if I want to walk freely in this world, I want to meet different people. At that, Tiffany leans on the balcony railing and looks at the stars. Tiffania, but I'm scared. I don't know anything. Actually, I'm a magician. Issei, huh? Tiffania, I realized it when I was almost taken into the army after my mother's death. That's why those memories are painful. Issei, really? Tiffania, I have magical powers in my body inherited from my mother, but I don't know if it's good or bad. Issei, at first I was the same as you. I had no idea if the power I had was good or bad. Tiffania, what do you mean by your power? Issei, you see, I was born with a sacred gear. At that, Issei begins to tell her his story about how he met his sacred gear and the adventures it brought him. Tiffania listened to each word with amusement. After a while, he finishes telling her his story. Tiffania, your life is amazing. Issei, yes, but what I mean is that you were born with a special power. Only you decide if this will be something good or something bad for you. It depends on how you develop it. Tiffania, I see. Issei, talk to me if you have problems, I will help you. Tiffania, thanks Issei. At that, Tiffania takes Issei's hands with hers and brings them to her chest. Tiffania, it's great that I can be your friend. At that, Issei smiles and Tiffania blushes at this. Issei, you're welcome, but it would be best if we go to sleep, it's already late. Tiffania, yes, thank you for listening to me. At that, Tiffany gives him a quick kiss on the cheek and goes to her room to sleep. After a few minutes, Issei also goes to his room. Time jump, now we find ourselves in the throne room in the castle as they were saying goodbye to the queen who would leave for the intercontinental meeting shortly. Henrietta, well, I think it's time to say goodbye. Louise, goodbye, princess. Henrietta, the truth is, Tiffany can stay here temporarily if she wants since she's my cousin. All hey? Cousin? Henrietta, isn't that correct, Tiffany? Tiffania, I just found out too, I still can't believe it. Henrietta, Tiffania's father is my father's younger brother who is the Archduke of Albion and is taking over southern Gotha. This must be the destination Pioneer Bremere has led us to. Issei, but Tifa, you're going to feel lonely if you stay here. How about you come with us to the academy? Tiffania, no, even His Majesty made me that offer and I rejected it too. Issei, why? Tiffania, I'm half-elf, and I'm not yet determined enough to walk into a crowd of strangers. To be honest, I'd like to be with you, but I could probably bring you trouble. Issei, don't worry Tifa, I'll protect you if something happens, so come whenever you want. Tiffania, thanks Issei. Henrietta, I'm glad you've made such a good friend as Issei. Louise, Tiffany, I'll give you some advice. Tiffania, which one is it? Louise, if you plan to go to the academy, you must change your attitude. Perhaps you plan to walk in the shadows. We will protect you, but you also have to move forward and face your fears. Tiffania, yes. Henrietta, well, everything is ready for Issei. Issei, what's wrong, princess? Henrietta, when you return to the academy, a surprise will be waiting for you. Issei, thank you, princess. At that point they begin to leave while the princess begins to leave followed by Anise, but before they leave Issei goes to Anise and turns to her where they remain looking at each other, and after that he kisses her. Anise was surprised, but after a few seconds it is Issei's turn. After a few minutes they separate due to lack of air. Anise, why was that? Issei, for luck. In that, Issei returns with the girls and they leave the castle. When they leave, a dragon was waiting for them, which would take them back to the academy, so they all go up and return to the academy. After a while of traveling, they see the academy in the distance. They begin to launch fireworks with the arrival of Issei. After that, They arrive at the academy and can see all the students gathered in the courtyard waiting for his arrival. All, long live Issei Chevalier of Hayato! Long live Issei Chevalier of Hayato! Long live Issei Chevalier of Hayato! Issei, what is all this about? Goichi, they are celebrating that you have become a chevalier. This morning urgent news arrived from the palace saying that if possible we should hold a great celebration. It was a direct order from the queen. Issei, celebrate means. Goichi, do you know about the Undine Knights? Although we only found out this morning. Issei, Knights of Undine? At that Issei sees a group of boys who stand in front of him. Unknown, congratulations Issei. You're pretty good. Then another boy who was next to the one who just spoke. He was blonde and wore glasses. Unknown too, nice to meet you, I'm Renard, I'll be in charge of the Knights' practices. Goichi, and I am the captain. There could be many problems if you were. Issei, wait, what are you talking about? Then Kirchi approaches where Issei was. Kirchi, what are you doing? Just leave those details aside. Issei, you're a chevalier now. My opinion of you has changed. In this, Montmorency is also close to Issei. Montmorency, well, it's not that I don't want to congratulate you. Meanwhile, this was observed by Ravel, Kaneko who had just arrived, Louise and Rosweiss who could only sigh at the princess's occurrences. Meanwhile, Siesta, upon seeing Issei, runs to where he is and jumps on him, hugging and kissing him in front of everyone, which caused jealousy in Kirchi. After a few minutes they separate. Siesta, I miss you so much Issei. Issei, I also have something for you. Siesta, what is it? Issei, the princess didn't give it to me for you. At that, Issei takes out the letter that the princess gave him for his nap and gives it to her. Upon receiving it, she opens it immediately and begins to read it. When she finishes, a smile forms on her face. Issei, what did the letter say? Siesta, I was saying that now I am your servant, master. Issei, what? Siesta, according to the letter, since you are now a noble, I can be your servant, which means that we cannot be separated unless you allow it. Issei, I see, but you can get up after a nap. At that, Siesta notices that she is still on top of Issei, so she quickly gets up with a blush. Then Issei gets up too. After that moment, everyone continues with the celebration. Chapter 34 Princess? Today is a new day at the Magic Academy. Now we are in the courtyard of the academy, since here Issei was training with the Knights of Undine, while in another part of the garden was Rosweiss chatting with Ravel about Kaneko. Since they arrived she has been in the room depressed because Issei, although he has forgiven her, did not even speak to her. He was always with Louise, Rosweiss napping, or Ravel. Meanwhile, returning with Issei, he was trained in sword combat. He was fighting against several of the boys who were Knights of Undine. He was with 2 wooden swords so as not to hurt the boys, while they were with a sword formed with his magic. Issei was currently facing Goichi, who did not have a sword but a flower in his hand. Issei, is that all Goichi? Goichi, my specialty is earth magic. In that, Goichi makes the flower he was holding turn into a sword to attack Issei and goes against him, but Issei blocks the attack with one of his swords without problems, while with the other he counterattacks with a horizontal cut hitting him, and this causes Goichi to move to the side while Issei attacks him again with a sweep, causing Goichi to fall to the ground, and then Issei puts both swords on Guiche's neck in the shape of a cross. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Louise was chatting with Kirchi and Montmorency, while they also watched the fights. While some students supported those training, especially Issei, who had recently become very popular. Montmorency, lately it's all about playing knights all day long, and they say it's all practice. Kirchi, isn't it good to have fun? Although someone doesn't seem to be happy about this. Louise, it's not true. Kirchi, well, there's nothing to do. Now Issei is too busy with the Undine squadron, and those other girls who came with Issei when he returned from the battle against the Albion army also arrived. Louise. It's not that I'm not happy. I admit that it hasn't been easy after returning from the war and not having as much time with him, although now it must be complicated with the situation regarding the 2 who arrived with Issei. Kirchi, what do you mean? In that moment they are all interrupted by someone who is running, and was calling Issei. Unknown, Issei. 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 In that everyone sees how a very beautiful blonde girl with a hat came running to where Issei was. All the boys blush when they see her except Issei because when he sees her he recognizes her instantly, but while she is running he doesn't see that on the ground there was a wooden sword and she tripped on it, and when she was about to fall she closes her eyes because of the next impact, but after a few seconds she opens them again since she didn't feel the impact of the ground, and she sees that someone was holding her, and this was none other than Issei, and he was looking into her eyes. Issei, are you okay, Tifa? At that, Tifania blushes slightly because Issei was looking at her directly, which makes her nervous. Tifania, why yes. Then Issei helps Tifania stand up. Issei, and what are you doing here, Tifa? Did you decide to attend the academy? Tifania, yes, because you gave me courage and you'll also protect me, right? Although the fact that I'm half-elf has to be kept a secret. Issei, don't doubt it, Tifa. At that, Issei shows a smile to Tifa which causes the slight blush she had to increase even more. Time skip. A few days have passed since Tifania had arrived at the academy, although some boys kept bothering Tifania about going out with them. But it was nothing that Issei couldn't solve by making Tifania calmer. Now we are in Louise's room. In this room, Issei was sleeping. He was in the middle of the bed while Louise was on his chest. Rosweiss was on his right arm and Nap on his left. At that, the sun's rays begin to wake Issei up as they hit him directly in the face. Issei, girls wake up. Rosweiss, it's early, Issei. Louise, 5 more minutes. Nap, I don't want to get up yet. Issei, come on girls, I have to go train. Louise, and why don't we stay like this? Issei, come on girls, it's time to get up. Girls, zzzzzzz. Issei, girls, if you get up, I promise that I will make it up to you tonight until you can't take it anymore. The girls, upon hearing that, wake up and get up quickly since they wanted to be with Issei. Issei, it worked. In that, Issei gets up and changes his clothes and goes to training. After a while, Issei finishes training and goes to the dining room to meet the girls. He also meets Ravel, who is going to have breakfast with them. Meanwhile, in another part of the dining room, Tifania was being harassed by several boys. Boy 1, don't you want a cup of tea? Tifania, no thanks for the offer. Boy 2, you don't have to be so polite, please. Tifania, no, it's really okay. Boy 3, do you have anything planned for this afternoon? Tifania, well about that Boy 4, don't pick me please. Meanwhile, Issei and the girls were talking while having breakfast. Ravel wanted to make up for time with Issei, so she was sitting on his lap, while Rosweiss was on his right and Louise was on his left. Louise, you know there's another chair over there. At that, Louise points to a single chair that was in front of Issei. Ravel, I'm comfortable here and I want to make up for time with Issei. Then Issei caresses Ravel's head. Issei, don't worry, Ravel. Rosweiss, I see you have no problems with Ravel. Issei, Ravel, like you, was one of the few who didn't cheat on me since she, like you, distanced herself because of work. Ravel, don't worry, Issei, since we are together now. In that, Ravel steals a quick kiss from Issei which makes Louise and Rosweiss feel jealous of her. In that, Issei notices it and takes Louise by the chin and brings her closer to then kiss her, and after a few seconds they separate. Then he repeats the action with Rosweiss. Issei, better? Girls, yes. At that moment, a blonde boy approaches along with Gabriel. They came to talk to Issei about the training of the Undine Knights. Renard, Issei, we need your help. Issei, what's up guys? Renard, we need your help regarding the training of the Undine Knights. Issei, what's the problem? Renard, we want to strengthen the training but we don't know anyone other than you who is a knight. Issei, well? In that, they are interrupted by the boys who were bothering Tifania. Now Issei sees how the boys wanted to take off his hat to put another one on it, but this did not let them take it off. Boy, this hat will look wonderful on you. Boy 2, no, this one will suit you better. Boy 3, what are you talking about? Mine will fit better. Boy 1, how is that kind of thing possible? At that point, Issei starts to worry because if they take off Tiffany's hat, they would discover her secret, and he doesn't know how the others will react to this. Tiffany, no thanks, but no. Excuse me. At that, Tiffany stands up from where she was sitting and runs away while holding on to her hat so as not to lose him, but while she was running, she happens to push a girl. Tiffany, I'm sorry. In that she continues running. Meanwhile the girl was angry by the way Tiffany pushed her aside without caring who she was, while the other girls who accompanied her began to complain. Girl 1, what? What a rude girl. Girl 2, incredible. How rude. Returning to Issei, he continued chatting with the boys for a while longer until they realized that Issei had to go talk to the other knight from the academy to see if he could help them with their training. Now we can see that it is already afternoon, and Issei is entering the academy library. He was looking for Tabitha since she was the other Chevalier Knight of the academy, and he wanted to see if she could help them with their training. So he started searching through all the library's hallways until he finally found her sitting leaning against a bookcase reading, so he decided to approach her to talk. Issei, hello Tabitha. Tabitha, what? Issei, hey, well, you're a Chevalier, right? Tabitha, yes. Tabitha, so you would like to join the Undine Knight squad? Tabitha, I'm a Galleon. Issei, yes, but... Tabitha, I have no interest in knights. Issei, I see, then I say goodbye. At that Issei decides to leave her alone. He begins to walk through the courtyard of the academy thinking about how to improve the training of the Undine Knights until suddenly he hears someone shouting at another person, and judging by the voices they were women. Girl, reckless girl. At that, Issei sees that it was Tiffany who was being yelled at, and she was slowly backing away from them. Tiffany, see, could I ask who she is? Girl 2, who do you think she is? Girl 1, Beatrice Yvonne von Gundenhorf. All, Gundenhorf-sama. Girl 3, the Grand Duchess of Gundenhorf, Princess Beatrice. Tiffany, Your Highness? Girl 2, you don't even greet her even though you're in the same class as Her Highness? That's really rude. Apologize right now. Tiffany, why yes, sorry, Princess. Beatrice, you call that an apology? First of all, take off that dirty hat. Girl 3, do you think that is correct in a noble presence? Girl 1, there's a limit to not knowing manners. Tiffany, but this hat. Beatrice, take it off like you were told. At that Issei couldn't bear to see how they were taking advantage of Tiffany, so he decided to interfere to help her, and went to where they were. Issei, hey! What do you think you're doing to Tifa? Then he arrives where they were and stands in the middle separating the Tiffany. Issei. Girl 2, what are you doing? Don't you know who she is? Issei, no, and I don't give a shit who it is, I won't let them bother Tifa. Beatrice, who are you? Issei, I'm the one who will hurt you if you keep bothering Tifa. At that Issei begins to release his dragon aura, causing the girls to get scared by that aura, and Beatrice, who had approached a few steps to try to intimidate Issei, now takes them back while trembling with fear. At that Goichi sees that Issei was in a conflict, and decides to interfere before it gets worse. Goichi, ho, but isn't that Princess Gundenhorf? In that Issei let's see what Goichi interfered and stopped releasing his dragon aura, which made the girls calm down a little, but they were still scared. Beatrice, wow, Mr. Greymont, long time no see. Do you know him? Goichi, if the Issei has just become a chevalier, I can't believe that His Highness is in a place like this. Talking to someone like him is damaging to his noble reputation. Beatrice, but this person really? At that, Goichi approaches Beatrice's ear and whispers something to her. Goichi, being a mature woman, I cannot show even a single flaw at any time. Hearing that, Beatrice gets a little embarrassed. Beatrice, it's true, that's enough, we're leaving. Girl 1, but... Beatrice, I said that's enough. Girl 1, good. At that, Beatrice and the girls who were accompanying her leave the place, leaving Issei alone with Tiffany and Goichi, but at that Beatrice turns around and speaks to Tiffany. Beatrice, hey you! I'll be magnanimous today, but the next time you appear before me, I'll make sure you take off that hat. At that, Issei, seeing Beatrice's conceited attitude, begins to unleash his dragon instinct again, which causes the girls to feel fear again and run away. After they left, he stops unleashing it while Tiffania grabs her hat, and Goichi just lets out a sigh. At that, they go somewhere else to talk. Issei, Goichi, isn't your family respectable? Why did you put yourself at the feet of those people? Goichi, that girl is not just any person. Even if she belongs to a small country, she is still the princess of that country. Issei, and what? Goichi, not only that she's very rich, and she even brings with her a team of renowned protectors, known as the Knights of Heaven. Goichi, they're known as the best dragon knights in all of Hokujinia. I don't want to get involved in a conflict with them. Issei, what's the need to bring a squad of knights to the academy? Goichi, rich people love to brag. Issei, aren't you talking about yourself? Goichi, I just want to look cool. At that, Issei looks at Tifa with a smile. Issei, I don't care about any squad of dragon riders if they create another problem for you. Let me know, Tifa, I'll help you. Tiffania, Issei. Time skip. Now we meet Issei, who is heading back to his room. When he enters it, he sees Louise, Rosweiss, and Siesta all sitting at a table with food by candlelight. Louise, we were waiting for you, Issei. Rosweiss, sit down, darling. Siesta, we prepared dinner for you, Issei. Issei, thanks, girls, I still haven't forgotten what I promised you. The girls, upon hearing this, cannot help but feel a slight blush on their cheeks because of what Issei's promise meant. In that, Issei has dinner with the girls and then goes to fulfill his promise with them, where they had hexed all night to compensate for not letting them sleep anymore. The next morning we can see how they were sleeping, hugging Issei. While he begins to wake up because of his great enemy, the rays of the sun, which no matter what Issei did always hit his face and woke him from his sleep, he tries to get up and sees that he can't because he feels his body heavier. Then he sees that Louise was on top of his chest naked sleeping while she hugged him. Then he looks to the right and sees that Rosweiss was naked with Issei's arm between her tits, then to the left to see that she was napping in the same position as Rosweiss with Issei's arm between her tits. He gets out of bed very carefully so as not to wake the girls. After that he leaves and showers and changes his clothes, and the girls continue sleeping. Meanwhile, in another part of the academy, Tiffany was standing in front of a wooden door. She was dressed normally but was being covered with a blanket that also covered her head, hiding her ears without her hat. Tiffania, I don't want to cause more problems to Issei and the others. I have to depend on myself. Meanwhile, on the other side of the door, magic classes were being given. Right now, the teacher was taking the list of students. Teacher, Miss Westwood. Absent? Then. At that moment the door to the living room opens, allowing Tiffany to enter, who was covered. Teacher, Miss Westwood. What's up with that suit? At that, Tiffany starts walking to the front of the class while the students were only talking about Tiffany's clothes. Student, what a strange outfit. Student 2, just like a clown. Tiffania, everyone. This is a suit left by my mother. Teacher, what are you talking about? Only desert dwellers wear those clothes. Don't tell me you're a he. Tiffania, yes. At that, Tiffany takes off the part of the cape that covered her head, revealing her elf ears. At that, all the students start screaming. Girl 2, she's an elf. At that point, all the students get scared and start running. Some hide under the table while others just back away. The teacher hides under her desk while Beatrice was behind a table on her knees complaining. Beatrice, unforgivable, being an elf and stealing my popularity. Tiffania, please, everyone calm down. I just want to interact with everyone. Girl 1, liar, how could the elves be on good terms with us? Tiffania, it is true that for a long time the elves and humans of Hokujinia were always in conflict, but even so my parents fell in love, and my body runs both human and elven blood, that is why. Beatrice, so that means you're half-elf? In that case, let me ask, which god do you believe in? The desert demon? Or Pioneer Brimir? Tiffania, well. Beatrice, if you want to get along with us, you must believe in the same god as us. Tiffania, if that's the condition to achieve it. Beatrice, then you must try it, gentlemen. At that moment, two gentlemen enter through the window and break it. Beatrice, Grand Duchess of Goldenhorf, Knights of Heaven, capture that woman! In that, the Knights of the Sky capture Tiphania and take her to the courtyard, and while in another part Issei sees how some dragons were flying near the academy, and in that he sees that one carried Tifa in one of its legs, Issei without thinking twice goes where the dragon was going. After a few minutes he arrives at the courtyard on the other side of the academy. They were all gathered surrounding Tifa, and Beatrice was in front of this. Beatrice, declare your faith in the presence of a representative of God. Tiphania, what do you want me to do? Beatrice, get into it. At that, Beatrice points to a cauldron which was boiling. Beatrice, don't worry, Pioneer Premier believers will find the temperature is perfect. The students just watched and murmured things. Student 1, are you really going to do it? Student 2, it's too dangerous. Issei, because no one stops this. At that, Issei starts walking towards where Tifa was while Geiche followed him to try to stop him. Geiche, wait, Issei, don't go. In that, Geiche holds Issei back. Issei, what's wrong? Are you scared of the Night Squad? Geiche, this has nothing to do with them, it's the Inquisition. Boy 1, they might call you a heretic if you go against them, and you'll be sent to jail. Returning with Beatrice. Beatrice, can't you do it? Then go back to your land and I'll pretend nothing happened. Tiphania, no, I don't want that. I always longed to see the outside world. It was Issei and the others who made my wish come true, that's why I'm never going back. Beatrice, I'm letting you come back and you better do it. Tiphania, what a pathetic person. No, she isn't, she's still a child. Beatrice gets even angrier when she hears me call her a girl. Beatrice, throw that elf into the cauldron immediately. Issei, wait. Beatrice, do you want to interfere with the Inquisition? Issei, do whatever you want with me, just let Tifa go. Geiche, no, don't do it. This has nothing to do with you. This will also involve your loved ones. Issei, loved ones. At that, Issei thinks about Louise Rosweiss, Nap, Anise Ravel and the princess. After that, Issei stands in front of Beatrice and kneels. Beatrice, what do you want? Issei, I was the one who brought Tifa here. Beatrice, so what? Issei, all this is my responsibility, please forgive Tifa. Beatrice, no way. Issei, not even begging him like this. Beatrice, impossible. Issei, well, there is no other way. At that, Issei stands up and summons his swords, but Beatrice throws a ray at him, but Issei blocks it. Beatrice, it seems you are a heretic. Then the cauldron falls and this catches everyone's attention. Beatrice, what do you think you're doing? Mr. Greymont. Geiche, abandoning ladies and friends is a disgrace to knights. A knight must use his sword to differentiate truth from falsehood. Then Renard arrives with his sword. Renard, let's support the captain. Boy Undine, take your weapons. At that, all the knights of Undine take their swords. Issei, seeing this, just smiles for his friends. Issei, thanks guys, but this is my problem. At that, Issei looks Beatrice in the eyes again. Beatrice, what are you looking at, heretic? Issei, only someone who will regret his actions. Beatrice, what nonsense are you talking about? At that point, Issei decides to activate his balance break, scaring Beatrice with the aura he expelled, which was worse than the last time. Beatrice, what are you doing? Don't stay there, attack. In that, 3 knights are going to attack Issei. First was one who arrived before, but he blocks his attack and then hits him in the stomach. That sends him back and dents the armor, and he falls unconscious from the force. The second tries to cut Issei, but Issei uses Derflinger and blocks his attack and then attacks with Ascalon, giving a diagonal cut, breaking the knight's armor, causing a not very strong wound, and then kicks him to send him next to the other. The other attacks with magic, but Issei puts his arm and cancels the attack, and then Issei fires a dragon shot at the knight, which upon impact causes him to be thrown and unconscious. Beatrice was in shock as a mere commoner defeated 3 of her guards without breaking a sweat, and now he was heading towards her. Issei, I hope it's clear to you that they are not a threat to me. Beatrice, this won't stay like this. Louise, I think so. Issei, Louise. Beatrice, what do you mean? Louise, you talk about the Inquisition, but do you even have that authority? Beatrice, I have the certificate at my house. Louise, you're lying, aren't you? Beatrice, I'm not lying. Louise, the Inquisition requires authorization for this purpose from the Pope of Romalia. If you are a bishop, you should know that. Upon hearing that, all the students began to murmur behind his back. Student, what does that mean? Student 2, without having authority. Student 3, using God's name falsely? Student 4, incredible. At that, the girls who were with Beatrice before were now slowly moving away from her. Girl 1, it has nothing to do with me. Girl 2, not with me either. Then they walked away from her while Tiffania approached where Beatrice was. Tiffania, Beatrice. Beatrice, what? At that point, Tiffany approaches Beatrice, but Beatrice just moves away from her. Beatrice, don't come near me. At that, Beatrice trips and falls to the ground and covers her face with her hands and begins to tremble, but at that Tiffany takes Beatrice's hand and looks at her with a smile. Tiffania, let's be friends. Beatrice starts to cry upon hearing this, and Tiffania just hugs her to calm her down. Everyone saw this happily. Girl 1, the elves are so kind. Girl 2, I want to be her friend too. At that, Issei approaches where Louise was and deactivates her balance break. Issei, Louise, thanks for the help, Louise. Louise, no thanks, you'll have to make it up to me. At that, Issei approaches Louise's ear to whisper something in her ear. Issei, don't worry, tonight it will just be you and me. Louise, upon hearing this, can't help but feel a strong blush come to her face. Chapter 35, Reconciliation? Now we are in the Magic Academy, to be more specific, in the room where you can find yourself alone and you can read. This is because the promise has been fulfilled that with her, and they have had Hex all night until they no longer know and fell exhausted. While the others used to let them read them and took them alone, but they did not know that they wanted to be accepted. While the sun's rays were doing their job, which was the following: the dream and the fact that they did it with desire, that no matter what they did, as long as they did it. Issei, Louise, it's time to wake up. Louise, I don't want to, let's stay like this. In that, Issei kisses Louise, which causes her to wake up but still sleepy. Louise, no, that's not fair. Issei, come on Louise, you have classes today, and I also have to go see the girls. Louise, it's okay. After that, he changes his clothes and left. While Louise changes to leave her room, he meets the one who is on the verge of hugging him, and in that, he steals a kiss from her, Issei, but in that, he is the clamp of the waist and brings her closer to kiss her. After a few minutes, they separate due to lack of air, which meant that she was very blushed by Issei's action. Issei, and how are you, Ravel? Ravel, fine, but Issei, there's something I want to ask you. Issei, and what is it? Ravel, before I tell you that you have the stopwatch that fulfilled it. Issei, I don't know. At that, Ravel starts to make the puppy eyes, which Issei can't resist. Issei, okay, I promise that I will fulfill what you asked of me as long as this is within my possibilities. Ravel, Issei, I would like you to please talk to Kaneko. Issei gets serious upon hearing that. Issei, why? Ravel, please Issei, I'm worried about them. Even if we found you, she'll still be depressed because she thinks you hate her. Issei, she's well promised that she would do it. She has to talk to her, but I don't promise anything. Ravel, thanks Issei, I promise I'll make it up to you. Issei, okay, tell him to see me in the courtyard in a few hours. Ravel, yes. In that, it can be changed, while this is the time to decide what to do with him, and then see that there is nothing to do with him. Rosweiss was found, who was training with her magic in the backyard of the school. Issei, hello Rosweiss. Rosweiss, seeing Issei approaching, stops crawling and heads to where he was. Rosweiss, hello Issei. At that, Issei approaches Rosweiss and kisses her, who gladly reciprocates the action of her boyfriend. Issei, Rosweiss, there's something I want to ask you. Rosweiss, what's happening Issei? Issei, well, what happens is that a while ago I met Ravel and he asked me for something but I don't know what to do. Rosweiss, do you think you've already told them what they asked you to do, which was to talk to Kaneko? Right. Issei, how do you know? Rosweiss, it's that she had a problem with that, and she wanted me to help her when it came to convincing herself that she had something else with her that was worried about her, and let me tell you that it doesn't look good. Issei, but what can I do? Rosweiss, what do you feel for Kaneko right now? Issei, honestly, there isn't one. According to Drake, I shouldn't have feelings for her anymore, but even if he says so, I think I still have feelings for her. At that, Rosweiss is surprised because she didn't expect that. Rosweiss, what do you mean? Issei, although they hurt me, but I understood that holding a grudge was useless, and even though they didn't have it, women were very strong for me and what I felt for them was very strong, but what they did to me hurt me a lot. Rosweiss, you see, you're afraid of getting hurt again. Issei, you're right. At that, Rosweiss approaches Issei and hugs him and Issei reciprocates. Rosweiss, don't worry Issei, you don't have us. Issei, thanks Ross-chan, but I don't know what to do with Kaneko. Rosweiss, talk to her and see what you get. Issei, thanks Rosweiss. In that, he kisses Rosweiss while he surrounds her waist with his arms, and they separate after a few seconds. Issei, I love you Ross-chan. Rosweiss, me too Issei. In which Issei separates and goes to find where to meet Kaneko after arriving at a place where this place is located. It is the old cabin of Professor Colbert. When arriving, Issei sees where she was and that Kaneko sees him, and she is surprised since if she came. Issei, hello Kaneko. Kaneko, hello Issei-senpai. Issei, Kaneko, can we chat? Kaneko, what's happening senpai? Issei, I want you to tell me how you feel. Kaneko, what do you mean? Issei, how do you feel since I left? Kaneko, the truth is when I found out that you left, I was very sad. You are the person I love and it hurt me a lot to find out that you left because we left you, and I felt worse when I found out that we almost killed you because of the fall of the dragon. Then we found out that you were in another world and that there was a possibility that you could come back. I felt happy you could see each other again, and then Ravel arrived and found out about everything that happened, and she had nothing to do with how we hurt you and she would not have you anymore, so I felt worse, but thanks to her that later I felt better that she told me that you would come back to bring what I hope she forgives me. But when I get here and I am happy that I find you, but I worried when you faced that army, but after that. In which he sees that Kaneko is silent, and sees how her eyes are moistened. Issei, and what about that? Kaneko, I also wanted to talk to you but you were always busy and you were with Rosweiss or the others, that's why I didn't have the chance. Besides, I thought that you didn't love me anymore because you still held a grudge against me and that affected me. Issei, Kaneko, I no longer hold a grudge against you. Kaneko, senpai, I want to be with you again, I love you. Issei, Kaneko yo. Kaneko, I know I hurt you but at least listen to the reason so that you can at least consider truly forgiving me. Issei, it's okay. Kaneko, what happened was. Start flashback. Now we find ourselves in Quiz Academy where we can see how Kaneko is talking to another person who is none other than Kisame. Kaneko, Kisame. Kisame, who are you? Kaneko, my name is Kaneko, I am a second-year student. Kisame, and what do you want? Kaneko, I heard you teach classes, right? Kisame, do you want me to help you? Kaneko, please. Kisame, tell me when you can so I can help you. Kaneko, it could be this Saturday. Kisame, it's okay. Temporary greetings. 2 months have passed since we helped study in a Kaneko in which she has made friends again and at the same time a little sister. One of those days Kaneko heard a Rias Akeno speak. Akeno, and how did it go? Rias, I did very well, she is someone sweet and intelligent. Akeno, but you won't have problems if he is our teacher? Rias, don't worry about anything that magic can't solve. At that Kaneko was surprised that Rias was deceiving Issei, and she was going to get upset but Akeno continued talking. Akeno, but Rias, how do you think Issei will react if he finds out? Rias, don't worry, all the eternity to be alone is just to gain experience and be able to please issei better. Akeno, I see. Rias, also, you could vote for him too. Akeno, I don't know. Rias, let's go, it's for issei. Akeno, you're right. Meanwhile, even hidden, we searched for Kaneko. We thought about what she had just heard and we thought that she could also gather, experience to please a couple, that she said that she would help herself with Kisame. Flashback ending. Kaneko, and that's why I decided to go out with Kisame-senpai. Issei, honestly, it's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. Issei, Kaneko, a couple was never again. That experience that they wanted to get together was completely useless, and that you learned what I liked. But that I don't like, it hurt me a lot that you were the most important thing in my life. Kaneko, I'm sorry senpai, I didn't see it that way, and that's why I lost you. In that you can see how Kaneko's eyes were watering because she was sorry. In that she feels bad for Kaneko because she didn't like that she was crying, so she hugs her to comfort her. Issei, Kaneko, we can't go back to the relationship you had. Kaneko, but senpai. Issei, we can't, but it doesn't mean we can't start over, but this time properly. Kaneko, upon hearing that Issei was giving her a new opportunity, couldn't contain her happiness and hugged Issei while she shed a few tears of happiness. Issei was surprised, but after a few seconds, Issei hugged her too. Kaneko, thank you senpai. Issei, it's okay Kaneko. After a few seconds they separate. After that Issei says goodbye to Kaneko, who went to her room happy because she could get her senpai back. Meanwhile Issei stayed thinking about what he did. Issei, Drake, are you awake? Drake, what's up, buddy? Issei, do you think I did the right thing? Drake, what do you mean, mate? Issei, do you think I can love her again? Drake, Issei, I really don't know. When you performed the ritual, everything you felt for them was erased for your survival, and a seal was placed on them to prevent you from developing emotional feelings towards them. But Issei, but what? Drake, when Ryu improved the booster gear, that seal disappeared and I haven't found any traces of it again. Issei, so I can develop feelings for them again? Drake, maybe, but I don't know what will happen. Issei, I see. Drake, what will you do if you feel feelings for them again, mate? Issei, if what you feel for me is true and you are truly sorry, I think I will give you a chance. Drake, okay, buddy, it's your decision, but be careful. At that Issei leaves his mental space. It is already afternoon, and Issei decides to return to Louise's room to see if he could find any of the girls. When he arrived, he could see Louise, who was changing clothes at that moment, and when she saw Issei, she blushed and changed quickly. At that moment he noticed that Issei's gaze was serious. Louise, what's going on, Issei? Issei, it's nothing. Louise, Issei, I'm your girlfriend. I know something's wrong with you. Tell me what it is. Issei, it's okay, I was recently talking to Kaneko. Louise, upon hearing her name, frowned since she was one of the girls who had hurt her beloved Issei, and she wouldn't let that happen again. Louise, and what did they talk about? Issei, well, what we talked about was. In that Issei tells her everything about what he talked about with Kaneko, and also the reason why she had done it to him. It is worth mentioning that Louise was somewhat angry for such a silly reason like that, so that in the end she ended up hurting Issei. Issei, and that was what we talked about. Louise, I see, so you decided to give it another chance, right? Issei, yes, that's why I would like you not to fight with her. Louise, but Issei, she was one of the ones who hurt you and almost killed you. Issei, I know what happened, Louise, but holding a grudge is useless. Besides, Kaneko is suffering. I'm not saying we're going to have a relationship, but I would like you not to create conflicts with them. Louise, Issei, I don't want you to get hurt, you are very important to me. Issei, Louise, you are also one of the people I love most in the world, but Kaneko is very sorry and it shows that it is sincere. That is why I want to give her a second chance. That is why I asked you not to create a conflict. Louise, it's okay, I trust you, Issei. At that Issei approaches Louise, takes her by the chin and kisses her. She blushes and after a few seconds begins to reciprocate. After a few minutes they separate, and at that moment there is a knock at the door. Issei stands up to open it, and it turns out that it was Ravel who was looking for Issei. He comes out to talk to her. Issei, what's wrong, Ravel? Ravel, thanks for talking to Kaneko. Issei, what do you mean? Ravel, he arrived very happy and told me that you decided to give him another chance to correct his mistakes. Issei, yes, it looked very bad and it hurts me to see someone suffer like that, especially if it's because of me, but Ravel. Ravel, yes, Issei? Issei, the others will come too, right? Ravel, yes, why? Issei, you helped Kaneko and tricked me into talking to her. Ravel, I'm sorry, but it was the only way you could do it. Issei, don't worry, I'll pass, but I do want to ask you something. Ravel, what is it? Issei, I want that when the others come, if they are truly sorry, you don't help them, they have to find a way to talk to me if they really want it that way. Ravel, it's okay. Issei, thanks Ravel, one more thing. Ravel, what? In that Issei approaches Ravel and kisses her. She is surprised by Issei's action but reciprocates. But while they were kissing, Issei puts one of his hands on Ravel's waist while with the other he gropes her which causes Ravel to let out some soft moans. Issei, that sounds nice. Ravel, mo Issei, that is not done. At that, Issei approaches Ravel's ear. Issei, you know you'll make it up to me later, right? This is just a taste of what's coming, so I hope you don't regret it. Ravel, hearing that, can't help but blush at Issei's insinuation. After that, Issei separates from Ravel and she goes to her room very red for what happened. After that, Issei returns to the room with Louise, who was waiting for him sitting on the bed in her nightclothes. Issei goes to her and lays her on the bed and then starts kissing her, but then they are interrupted by someone knocking on the door. Issei separates from Louise and goes to see who was the one who interrupted him in his intimate moment with Louise. When he gets to the door and opens it, he sees that who had interrupted him this time were Rosweiss and Siesta, who came to see Issei. Issei, what's up, girls? Rosweiss, what do you mean? What's going on? Siesta, we came to sleep with you. We already left you one night alone with Louise. Now it's our turn. Issei, but... Rosweiss, no buts, you promised us you would compensate us. Issei, it's okay, but the three of us won't be there. Siesta, who else? Issei, Louise. Rosweiss, mo Issei, this doesn't count, you were alone with her, we want to have you one night just for us. Issei, okay, but what do you think about spending the four of us together tonight? Siesta, as long as you give us a night alone, we have no problems. Issei, so what are we waiting for? At that, Issei takes Siesta by the arm and pulls her towards him and kisses her. Siesta blushes at that but gladly reciprocates her lover's action. After a few minutes they separate due to lack of oxygen, but after that Issei sees Rosweiss, who was jealous of Siesta, and he repeats the action with her, which she happily accepts. After that, the three of them enter the room with Louise and the four of them have a very wild night full of hexware. In the end, after hours of pleasure, the girls could not take it anymore and fell exhausted by the tiredness and the excess of ecstasy they felt. The next morning Issei begins to wake up as the sun reached his eyes. When he wakes up he tries to get up but he can't because his body feels heavy, so he lifts the sheet and sees the girls sleeping cuddled with him. They were naked with their lower holes dripping with semen, while in some parts of the body they also had it on top. But what stood out the most was that the three of them were sleeping with a smile on their faces while they murmured things. Rosweiss, come on, Issei, stronger. Louise, Issei, not so hard. Siesta, wait, Issei, that's not the place, huh? Issei only sees this with a slight blush because of what the girls were dreaming about, but after a few seconds he begins to wake the girls up. Issei, come on girls, it's time to get up. Louise, mo Issei, 5 more minutes. Rosweiss, it's still early. Siesta, darling, let's keep sleeping. Issei, come on girls. At that point Issei comes up with an idea to get the girls to stand up. Issei, girls, if you don't get up, I won't sleep with you for a week. The girls, upon hearing that, get up quickly because they didn't want to sleep without their beloved Issei. After that, they all take a bath and start their day. A nap went to help in the kitchen, while Louise went to morning classes. Rosweiss went to talk to Ravel, while Issei was left alone but decided to train to become stronger. After a few hours we can see Issei, who was finishing training his technique with the sword. When he finishes, he notices how some girls were hidden watching him train, while he also sees several members of the Undine Knights talking to girls. Just like a large group of them were gathered at the entrance of the place where the Undine Knights met, so Issei decides to go see what was happening. Girl 1, please take this, Gish-sama. Then the girl hands Guche a bouquet of flowers. Girl 2, please take this and give it to Reinald-sama. At that point, several girls began to hand things to the person standing at the entrance of the door. This was a green-haired boy who was standing guard. Boy, please arrange yourselves properly in a row. In a row. While he was saying that, the girls just ignored him while Issei decided to go see what was going on inside. But when he entered, he could see on the table many gifts that the girls had given to the boys. Issei, what is all this? Reinald, after the fight with the Knights of Heaven we suddenly started receiving all this. Boy, Reinald. You like a first-year girl. Reinald, I understand. Issei, who is he? Reinald, a new member who just joined Gimli, says he joined only because he increased his popularity with the girls. At that, Reinald comes out and goes to talk to the first-year girl who was looking for him. Meanwhile, Issei just stood there watching how all the members of the Undine Knights were chatting with at least one girl, since there were some who were talking with 2 or 3. Issei, what's going on? It seems everyone has become very popular. Then Guche arrives where Issei was. He came with many things like bouquets of flowers and wrapped gifts that all his admirers had given him. Guche, being so popular can be problematic. At that moment, Guche hears a voice behind him, which causes Guche to start trembling in fear. The voice belonged to no one else but Montmorency, who was angry at Guiche's attitude. Montmorency, Guche. Guche, Montmorency. At that point, Guche tries to escape with his things, but Montmorency grabs him by the shirt to prevent him from escaping, which only makes Guche more afraid. Montmorency also starts speaking with a scary voice. Montmorency, Guche, who exactly gave you all that? Guche, why you're misinterpreting Montmorency? This was all set up for you, please believe me. At that moment, Montmorency approaches Guche and hugs him while hiding his face in his back. Montmorency, I really want to believe you. At that, Guche is surprised and worried because Montmorency began to speak with sadness in his voice. Montmorency, but I'm worried, how would it be possible for the other girls to ignore you right now? Guche, Montmorency. While they were chatting, Issei only watched from a distance since he didn't want to get involved in the couple's problems, but then someone approached and spoke to Issei. Boy, hello Issei. Issei, hello faggot. At that, Issei sees Marikorn, who was a fat blonde boy, but he was accompanied by a first-year girl with brown hair. Marikorn, how are you? Does it not fit me? Then he shows her the vest he was wearing. It was yellow with a pink heart in the center. Marikorn, Bridget, she wanted me to wear it at all costs. At that, the girl next to him blushes and takes her face in her hands. Bridget, faggot-sama. You really are. Marikorn, being popular, it can really be tough. Issei, thinking, wow, even he got the crush. At that, Marikorn sees that Issei doesn't answer him, so he approaches to talk to him. Marikorn, what's wrong, Issei? Are you jealous that I have a pretty girl? Do you need me to teach you how to treat girls well? Issei, you know that I have a girlfriend since before you were popular, right? Marikorn, upon hearing that Issei already had a girlfriend, is surprised since he thought there was something in which she had surpassed him. But apparently it was not like that, even with the girls he had won, so he just gets depressed and goes with Bridget. Time skip, now we see how Issei was in the kitchen with Siesta eating. He looks out the window and sees a blue dragon that was watching them. Issei sees that the dragon was looking at the food, so he decides to go out and give it to her. When he goes out and gives him the food, the dragon devours it gladly, and after that Issei begins to pet the dragon's head, which upon feeling it can only begin to roar slightly as a sign that he liked Issei to do it. After that Issei separated and the dragon flew away. After he left, Issei entered again where Siesta was, which had already finished working, Issei tells him to go back to the room. While they walk to the room, he sees that not far from there was a hole in the ground. Issei, seeing it, gets curious and goes to see what it was, but Siesta talks to him. Siesta, where are you going, Issei? Issei, I'm going to see that hole since it's strange it wasn't there before. Siesta, I'll accompany you. Issei, don't worry, Nap, I won't be long. Go to your room for a while. I'll catch up with you later. Nap, it's okay, but don't take too long. Issei, good? In that, Siesta approaches Issei and steals a kiss. After that she leaves and Issei goes to explore the hole. When he gets there, he observes and sees that at the bottom of the hole there was a tunnel. Issei, seeing it, jumps into the hole and begins to explore the tunnel. After a few minutes walking, he hears some voices ahead, so he decides to be more careful so that they do not notice him. When he reaches the origin of the voices, he sees how Reynold, Goiche, Maricorn, and Gimli were attached to a wall watching something. Issei approaches them from behind and surprises them. Issei, what are you guys doing? The boys feel scared because they thought they had been caught, but when they turn around they see that it was Issei, so they decide to tell him what they were doing. Gimli, hey, well, we were just appreciating the view. Issei, what do you mean? Gimli, why don't you look at it? I'm sure you'll like what you see. Issei then listens to him and looks through the hole. Upon doing so, he sees that the hole led to the girls' bathroom, which was being occupied by them. He is alarmed by what they were doing until suddenly he notices that Louise Rosweiss, Ravel Kaneko, and Tefania were bathing with other girls. He moves away from the hole and looks at the boys. Issei, so you were spying on the girls? Gimli, you like me, don't you? Issei, did they spy on all of them? Gimli, yes, but especially some beauties, one with white hair and enormous breasts. There was also a blonde with elf ears who also had enormous breasts. But not only that, there were also some beautiful girls like the blonde, the white-haired one, and the one with pink hair who, although they don't have big breasts, they are still very beautiful. Issei, upon hearing about the girls, gets angry because they were spying on them and had the nerve to say it directly to their faces. Meanwhile, Goiche begins to think that the description of the girls that Gimli mentioned seemed familiar to him until he finally remembers that all the girls that Gimli mentioned were related in some way to Issei, which caused him to start to get scared by their reaction. But then he notices that he begins to smile in a macabre way, which causes cold shivers to appear on him. Issei, so you were especially looking at those girls, right? Goiche, guys, I think we should go. Maricorn, why? The girls haven't left yet. I want to see that white-haired beauty that Gimli mentioned. Gimli, I like that busted blonde. Goiche, believe me, the best thing would be to flee now. Maricorn, why? Issei, so the white-haired girl and the busted blonde, right? At that the boys turned around and saw Issei, who had begun to emanate his dragon aura together with a murderous instinct that made the boys pale, and it was worse when Goiche spoke. Goiche, ch. The boys, upon hearing that, could only start to tremble even worse than before, since that meant that they were dead, and then they start running to escape from Issei, but he only saw this and gave them a 5-second advantage. After that he activated his balance break and flew off chasing the boys. The first one he caught was Maricorn, since he had problems getting out of the hole. When Issei caught him, he lifted him up and spoke. Issei, so the white-haired beauty? Right. Maricorn, Issei, please forgive me, I didn't know he was your partner. Issei just ignored this and hit him hard in the stomach, causing him to spit out a lot of saliva and then release it and fall to the ground, only for Issei to kick him in the stomach, sending him flying against a wall, which left him unconscious. Meanwhile, the girls who were finishing bathing heard the loud bang caused by Maricorn's impact, so they decided to go out quickly to see what was happening. When they went out, they only saw how Issei was chasing Gimli, and they see how he reaches him, and then they see how Issei hit him with a knee in the stomach. After that he throws him into the air and gives him a spinning kick that sends him flying near where Maricorn crashed. The girls, seeing that, wondered why he did that. Then they saw how Issei approached where they were. When he arrived where they were, they asked him why he was hitting the boys. Issei told them what he caught the boys doing. When the girls heard this, they got furious that they were spying on him, so they also began to hunt down the 2 missing ones. In that, Issei takes out his wings to look for them in the courtyard while the girls searched the academy. After a while, they caught Goiche and Reynold, who were beaten by the girls. After that, everyone went to their bedrooms and the boys were left lying on the floor knocked out while Issei went to where the girls were in Louise's room. After that, everyone slept peacefully except for the four who were in a lot of pain. Chapter 36 Fancy Dress Ball. It's already night, and now we see how Tabitha was in her room still awake reading a book sitting on the edge of the window while she was reading. A bird enters Tabitha's room. It was a black bird which carried a letter in its beak. Tabitha, when she sees the bird, she interrupts her reading to see what letter the bird was carrying. She had left the letter she was carrying on Tabitha's bed. Tabitha read it after a few minutes, and after reading the letter she takes her staff that was leaning against the wall, and goes out in search of her dragon. After a while we can see how Tabitha was flying on top of her dragon, but while she was flying someone starts to approach her. She turns around and sees how a manta ray was flying towards her. At that the manta ray starts to descend and sees a woman who is riding it, and when she sees her well Tabitha recognizes the woman, and in that she talks to her. Unknown, it's a pleasure to meet you, Knight of the North Flowers, Tabitha. Tabitha, why? Unknown, are you wondering why I'm here and not in Gallia? Unknown, my master wished there were only 4 dragons in the world, do you understand? At that Tabitha just remains silent, while the stranger continues to look at her, and decides to speak again. Unknown, that's right, the person closest to you. At that she makes the manta ray fly faster, and put herself in front of Tabitha, and starts talking without turning around. Unknown, listen, this may be an opportunity for your mother to recover from her mental state, complete your mission. After that she makes the manta ray accelerate, and moves away leaving Tabitha alone flying. Time skip now it's morning and we find ourselves in Louise's room where Issei and his girls were sleeping. Issei was in the middle of the bed when he starts to wake up and sees that his body was trapped between 3 beautiful girls, Roswise on the right, Siesta on the left, and Louise on top of him. All of them were naked, hugging Issei with a smile on their face while murmuring things which Issei just decided to ignore. Issei, girls, now you wake up. Louise, no, 5 more minutes. Roswise, it's still early. Siesta, we are comfortable. Issei, come on girls, it's time to wake up. At that Issei begins to try to free himself from her grip but sees that it doesn't work, so he decides to change tactics. At that Issei kisses Louise, then Roswise, and finally Siesta. After that the girls wake up. Louise, mo Issei, it's not fair. Issei, come on girls, we're going to be late. Roswise, okay. At that point the girls start to get up, just like Issei. After a while we can see how they were having breakfast. At that point, Issei notices that everyone was talking about the same thing with great enthusiasm, Sleipnir's dance. Issei, Louise. Louise, what's up Issei? Issei, what is Sleipnir's dance? Louise, it's a dance held at the start of the new semester. I mean tonight. Issei, and why a dance? Louise, what better than a dance to welcome you? Issei, I see. Louise, it's also an opportunity for newcomers to be educated about these types of social events. While they were talking, 2 boys passed by behind Issei, which caught his attention because of what they were talking about. Boy 1, hey, have you heard about the monstrous bird that is near the border? Boy 2, yes, I've heard it too. Boy 1, according to what they say, it is a gigantic bird. My brother, who is a dragon knight, has told me about it. Meanwhile, Louise continued talking about the dance while the girls listened. Issei returned to the conversation since Siesta had caught his attention. Nap Issei. Issei, yeah? Louise, as I was saying, it's not just any dance. Roswise, what do you mean? Louise, it's a costume ball. Through the mirror of truth we can change our appearances. You can take any form you want. Roswise, sounds interesting. Siesta, and what are they going to transform into? Louise, I think it's Katlanesen. Siesta, I see, and you? Roswise, I don't know. Siesta, and your Issei? Issei, I don't know either, and your nap? Siesta, I don't know, it's just that I promised to help prepare the party. Issei, don't overexert yourself. Siesta, okay, it's time for me to go. Issei, it's okay. At that Issei gets up and goes to where Siesta was and kisses her, This makes Siesta blush slightly, but after a few seconds she gladly reciprocates. After a few minutes they separate due to lack of air, and Siesta leaves with a smile on her face, while Issei also went to look for the boys who were talking about the monster. At that time, Issei catches up with them later and they continue talking. Issei, hello? Guys, hello? Issei, could you tell me about that rumor? Boy 1, okay, they say it happened at night. A dragon knight who went out to patrol looked at the sky and saw it. Boy 2, it is said to be over 150 meters long. At that moment another boy arrives and joins the conversation. Boy 3, maybe it's a legendary dragon. Boy 4, they don't say that their wings are too different from those of a dragon. Boy 5, but by the time the gentleman gave the warning, he had already left. Boy 3, it seems to have been a mistake. Time jump. Now we can see how all the students were gathered in a large room where in front of them there was a giant curtain, and the teacher was in front of all the students. Teacher, very well my dear students gathered. Then he approaches where the curtain had an opening and opens it. Teacher, allow me to accompany you to a fantasy world. At that moment, the teacher opens the curtain and reveals a full-length mirror that would allow them to disguise themselves. Some students, upon seeing it, begin to murmur. Boy 1, so that's the mirror of truth. Girl 1, how exciting. Teacher, come in. Come in one by one. At that point, all the students started to enter until Louise's time came. She enters and stands in front of the mirror for a few seconds. Louise, mumbling, you have to think about your ideal appearance. This mirror will reach the deepest part of your being and turn you into your ideal character. At that, Louise closes her eyes and puts her hands together. As she does this, the mirror begins to shine with a purple light. Then, after the mirror stops shining, Louise opens her eyes and looks in the mirror to see that her appearance has changed and is now just like her older sister Klatia. After that, Louise enters through the curtain that was in front of her, and as she does, she can see several people already transformed. Meanwhile, elsewhere we can see Issei as he was in the patio looking at the roof until suddenly he notices that it is getting late for him to go to the party. Then he gets up, and when he starts walking he hears a noise and looks up at the sky, and then he sees something giant flying above him which impresses him. After that he sets off again towards the party. Meanwhile at the party the principal had started talking to all the students who were already inside the party. Director, understand. Today is a costume ball. Director, his goal is to make us understand that in the academy it doesn't matter what your social status, rank, or title is. Otherwise, we would be learning together. Director, another thing, tonight we will also have the presence of Queen Henrietta. Besides being the sponsor of the party, she will also be in costume. Director, trying to guess who the queen is will be a fun activity to play. Excellent. Let each of you try your best to resemble your ideal character. Enjoy the evening, that's all. And so all the students present, and the teachers were applauding what the principal had just said. At that point the teacher began to speak. Teacher, come on, let the dance begin, come on guys, start changing. In that we can see how Montmorency along with some boys entered behind the curtain to disguise themselves. First a green-haired boy enters, then Montmorency, and then a fat blonde boy. After that, the mirror shines with purple light 3 times, and then on the other side a dragon knight, Queen Henrietta, and a blonde girl come out. Knight, well, I always wanted to be a dragon knight. Montmorency, I always admired the queen. Blonde, well, I always wanted to be a cute and tender girl like this. Then someone comes out from behind and hits the girl, causing her to fall face first onto the floor while he steps on her. This was no one else but Gabriel, who wasn't wearing a disguise. Montmorency, and your costume? Gabriel, when you have the perfect body, beauty, and class like me, you don't need a disguise. At that moment, the two who were in front of Gabriel broke into a sweat due to Guiche's self-centered attitude. At that moment, a beautiful white-haired woman with a nice figure appeared from behind Gabriel. Upon seeing her, Gabriel kicked the girl he was stepping on, knelt down, and kissed her hand. Gabriel, may I know the name of such a beautiful lady? Unknown, my name is Osmond. At that, Gabriel, upon finding out that it was Director Osmond, his heart stops and he falls on his back, while Montmorency, the dragon knight, just laughs at how things ended for Gabriel. After that, they see 5 Tiffany's running past them. At that, they all stop next to a table and start talking. Tiffany 1, wait a minute! We're all dressed as Tiffany's, but in the end we won't know who's who. Meanwhile, elsewhere we can see how Louise was walking through the party looking for Issei, but then someone bumps into her from behind, and when she turns around she notices it was Issei, but then she looks at his chest and sees that Issei had tits. Louise, hey Issei? Wait. What are those tits for? Issei, wait for that voice, is that you, Louise? Louise, okay? Issei, sorry, in the end I became Issei, but for some reason, my breasts didn't change. Louise, Tifa? Tiffany, why yes. Louise, mo, I won't know who's who. Meanwhile, at the entrance of the party in front of the mirror we can see how Ravel, Rosweiss and Kaneko were, in that the mirror begins to shine, and after that you can see 3 different girls. First the beautiful blonde who was Ravel, who had become her mother, Lady Phoenix. While next to her is a beautiful white-haired girl who was Louise, who had become her grandmother when she was young. While next to her you can see a beautiful black-haired girl with cat ears. This was Kaneko, who had become her sister Kuroka. After that the 3 entered the party. Meanwhile, in another part of the party, we can see how Issei walked through the party looking for the girls until he sees 3 beautiful girls walk in and recognizes 2 of them as Lady Phoenix and Kuroka. He approaches them and talks to them. Issei, are you girls? Ravel, yes. Rosweiss, but Issei, didn't you dress up? Issei, no. Kaneko, why Issei-senpai? Issei, well, I decided to go just like that. How about we have fun? In that, Issei extends his hand to Rosweiss, who takes it, and he pulls her towards him and puts his other hand on her waist while Rosweiss puts her hand on his shoulder, and they start to dance. After a while Issei changes partners and starts dancing with Ravel in the same way as with Rosweiss. After a while he starts dancing with Kaneko. And so he continues dancing with the girls until after a while Issei sees a pink-haired girl who was on the balcony, so he decides to approach her. Issei, Louise, I finally found you. Louise, what's up Issei? Issei, princess? Princess, how did you find out about me? Issei, your aura is different. Besides, I don't smell my scent inside you, but I know you're not Louise. Besides, I recognize the aura you release, princess. Princess, well, I see you found me. I didn't think that would give me away. I didn't know you could feel your connection with Louise at that level. Issei, princess, I am a dragon. For me it is easy to perceive the auras of others and distinguish them. Princess, I see, you always surprise me with something new. Issei, but what are you doing here? Princess, well, since I'm the main sponsor, I wanted to attend my event. Issei, I see, but why did you become Louise? Princess, the truth is that I really admire Louise for who she is and how no matter what happens she always supports me. Issei, I see, Louise is someone very important to you. Princess, yes. At that point the princess begins to approach Issei, who only sees how she approaches. Issei, what's wrong, princess? Princess, you know, Issei, you also matter a lot to me. Issei, what do you mean, princess? Princess, Issei, after Wald died, I felt sad. I didn't think I could ever feel as happy as him again, but... Issei, but? Princess, but then I got to know you better, Issei. I saw how you cared for Louise and the others, how you didn't hesitate to give anything for them. That true love is something that captivated me about you, Issei. Issei, what does princess mean? Princess, Issei, I fell in love with you. Issei, princess, I don't know what to say. At that point the princess approaches Issei and interrupts him as she kisses him. This surprises Issei, but he doesn't dislike it as it felt good, but in that Issei corresponds. Meanwhile, in another part of the academy, we can see how someone hooded stood in front of the teacher and began to ring a blue bell. Knight, who are you? At that moment, the teacher and the gentleman fall asleep due to the effect of the bell. Unknown, now I will take the void user as a gift to my master Joseph. Meanwhile, inside the party, all the students' costumes began to disappear, while Issei, who was kissing the princess, also lost her costume, and then they were interrupted by someone. Unknown, Issei. At that, Issei turns around and sees Louise, who was looking at him, while a few tears formed in her eyes, and after that she runs away and Issei chases her. After a few minutes, Issei catches up with her in the yard and stops her. Issei, Louise, what's going on? Louise, why? Issei, why what? Louise, because you always bring more girls. Issei, what do you mean? Louise, at first I thought it would just be the two of us, but then Ross Weiss arrived. I accepted her because it was obvious that she loved you. Then I went to siesta, then those two girls who arrived with you, and now Princess Issei. Aren't we enough for you? Do you always have to go after more girls? Issei, let me explain. Louise, okay, explain it. Because more always arrive. Issei, Louise, this is not something I control. I know I seem like a womanizer or that I'm playing with you because I'm with so many, but I promise you something. Louise, with each girl I form a relationship with, I love them with my life. You're right, there are more and more of them, but I promise you that I will never forget you. You are the first and the most important to me. Louise, but... Issei, Louise, I love you. If it bothers you that more and more girls arrive, I promise that I will never have any more than you. You are very important to me and I don't want to lose you. Louise, you promise? Issei, I promise, Louise. In that, Issei kisses Louise, who at first was hesitant but then notices that Issei wasn't lying and the kiss was full of love, so Louise reciprocates the kiss, but in that a gargoyle appears and takes Louise and takes her away. While Issei, seeing that she was moving away, he starts to follow her, but when he crosses the door of the academy someone attacks him with ice magic. Issei, who are you? In that, Issei sees that the person who had attacked him was Tabitha. Issei, Tabitha, what are you doing? At that, Tabitha just ignores him and attacks him again, but Issei dodges the attack and activates his booster gear, and from it he takes out Ascalon, with which he begins to block the attacks that Tabitha kept throwing. Issei, why? Why are you attacking me like that all of a sudden? Then Tabitha attacks again. Tabitha, it's an order. Then Tabitha continues attacking, but Issei dodges it and jumps towards Tabitha, but she dodges it. Issei, order? From whom? Unknown, why do you doubt so much? Then they see where the voice came from and they see a woman on a thicket who had Louise next to her while a few gargoyles accompanied her. Issei, Louise. Issei, so the bird's true identity was you. At that point, Issei starts heading towards where the unknown woman was, but Tabitha blocks his way. Issei, besides Tabitha, if you don't do it, I'll have to take other measures to save Louise. But Tabitha was still silent, looking at Issei. Issei, Tabitha. Sheffield, she's not going to move. She's a girl, she's a knight of Nordfald, our loyal guard dog. Issei, guard dog? Drake, Issei, don't get distracted. In that, Issei sees how Tabitha was charging an attack against Issei. Issei, Tabitha, stop. I don't want to hurt you. Tabitha, Laguz water Issa Hasalas. At that moment, a large piece of ice begins to form on Tabitha and it begins to turn into a spear. Tabitha, Javelin! At that, Tabitha launches her attack against Issei, but when he sees how he was coming towards him, he charges an increase and fires his dragon shot that destroys the attack that Tabitha had launched at him, and that generates a large cloud of smoke. But at that, Issei runs towards Tabitha and jumps towards her and falls on top of her, putting his sword on her neck. At that, Tabitha waits for Issei to kill her, so she closes her eyes, but after a few minutes she sees that nothing happens, so she decides to open her eyes. Tabitha, why? You could have killed me instantly, why? Issei, what are you saying? How could I hurt someone who has helped me so many times? Even if it's to protect Louise, I couldn't do something like that. Tabitha, upon hearing this, is surprised by what she read Issei had just said, but then they are interrupted by Sheffield. Sheffield, why are you hesitating? At that, Tabitha gets up and pushes Issei. Tabitha, move aside. At that, Tabitha casts a spell and teleports away from him. Issei, Tabitha. Sheffield, it doesn't matter, the Void Mage is already in our hands. Issei, Louise. Wake up, Louise. Sheffield, it's useless, he can't hear you. Issei, come on, Louise, I trust you. Louise! At that, Louise begins to wake up from the trance Sheffield had put her in. Louise, issei? Sheffield, but how? Issei, Louise! Jump out of there. At that, Louise begins to approach the shore, but Sheffield tries to stop her, but she begins to struggle, and at that, Louise lets go and jumps off the manta ray. Issei sees her and summons his wings and goes to where Louise is, where he catches her in a bridal style and lands with her in his arms, but she had her eyes closed, but after a few seconds she opens them and sees that Issei had her in his arms. Louise, seeing him, hugs him with joy. Louise, Issei. Issei, it's over, Louise, calm down. But then Issei looks up to find Sheffield, but he sees that they were surrounded by many gargoyles. Sheffield, in that case I'll have to take her by force. But then they see how the gargoyles begin to explode and they hear loud gunshots, and they see how all the gargoyles were being destroyed. Sheffield, what's going on? At that moment, everyone looks up and sees something giant flying over them, which impresses everyone because of how big it was. Louise, what is that? Issei, it's the monstrous bird they were talking about. In that, they see how fire attacks begin to come out of the top of that thing, which causes Sheffield to escape due to the proximity of the attacks that were coming directly towards her. In that, Issei sees the person who launched the attacks, but what he saw left him in shock. Chapter 37, Fake Death. We can see how Issei and his girls were on a giant ship while talking to some people, while the rest of the students were also there celebrating someone's return. Unknown, what do you think? This ship is huge, isn't it? It's called the Ausland. Unknown, it is the ultimate in flying craft. Designed for exploration by Professor Colbert. Colbert, I was only able to complete my investigation with funding from Miss Zerbst. Then Kerchi goes to where Professor Colbert was and hugs him by the neck while smiling. Kerchi, what it means is that it is the fruit of our love. Colbert, well, back on topic, we've been doing our flight tests every day, and last night because of the wind we happened to pass by here. Kerchi, and that's when we saw you in the middle of the fight. It was quite a surprise. Issei, I was also surprised, being able to see the figure of Professor Colbert and hear that nostalgic voice. I thought it was an illusion. Louise, me too, I was sure that you had at that moment. Colbert, about that, what happened was that Tabitha secretly cast a fake death spell. Kerchi, what made it seem like his heart had stopped. I only found out about that afterwards and was able to rescue him from the coffin in the midst of that confusion, after which he remained in my home in Germany. At that, Kerchi approaches Professor Colbert while blushing, and Professor Colbert just gets a little nervous because of the attitude Kerchi was taking at that moment. Louise, they hid it from us all this time. There wouldn't have been any problem if they had told us, don't you think? Kerchi, sorry, I wanted to say it but I couldn't find the opportunity. Colbert, I apologize for making you worry. Louise, hey, it's okay. What matters is that you're safe after all. Louise, welcome back, Professor Colbert. Time jump, now we see how everyone was having fun at Professor Colbert's welcome party. Meanwhile, we can see how Issei was sitting on the edge of the ship thinking, but while he was distracted, his tenants start talking to him. Drake, Issei. Issei, what's wrong, Drake? Derflinger, are you going to hide everything about the fight with the Galleon girl? Issei, yes, I know, but I can't get all my thoughts in order. At that, Issei begins to remember the entire fight he fought against Tabitha the night before. Issei, but I don't know why Tabitha said it. Meanwhile, Louise was behind him watching as Issei was watching over the side of the ship. Louise, that expression again, it's been like that all morning. In that, Louise remembers how Issei accepted the Queen's declaration and how they kissed, which made her start to get angry, but after that she remembers how Issei told her that it didn't matter how many girls there were because he would still love her, and her anger started to subside. Meanwhile, Rosweiss was chatting with Ravel and Kaneko. Rosweiss, I see you've already fixed everything with Issei no Kaneko. Kaneko, well yes, but I still don't have a relationship. I have to make an effort to show him that I truly regret that what I feel for him is true. Ravel, remember that we will help you. Rosweiss, yes, I will also try to help you, but you should not force what is going to happen. Kaneko, I know I'll have to be patient, but I hurt him, and I'm really grateful that he gave me another chance. I won't let something like that happen again. Rosweiss, yes, but there is something that worries me. Ravel, what is Rosweiss? Rosweiss, what worries me are the other girls. Kaneko, are you saying this because of Rias and the others? Rosweiss, if they come, I don't know what could happen with issei. Kaneko, what do you mean? Rosweiss, Kaneko, what happens is that I don't know what he will do with the others. He was truly hurt by what they did, but he managed to overcome it. But he had to pay a great price for it, and it was a great suffering. Ravel, it would be best if we helped issei and tried to prevent them from pressuring issei to forgive them, so we will have to help issei. Rosweiss, besides, we don't know how the others will react if they come. Kaneko, what do they have to do with it? Rosweiss, Kaneko, we believe you and we trust that you are sorry, but the others still have a hard time trusting you and issei's decision, so if the others arrive and start fighting over issei, I don't think issei will hesitate to protect Louise and the others, while if that happens, they will start a conflict. And that's not what we want to happen. You know how Rias is? Kaneko, you're right. Meanwhile, returning to issei, we can see how he is interrupted from his conversation with his tenants by Goichi, who was calling him to help them. Goichi, hey issei. The Undine Night Squad has gathered. Issei, why yes? Meanwhile, the students began to gather since the queen had arrived at the ship. At that point, everyone began to cheer for the queen. Students, long live your majesty. At that, Professor Colbert stands in front of the students before the queen and kneels before the queen in a form of respect, and then stands up. Queen, it really is a splendid ship, it will definitely become a legend in Hokuginia. Colbert, it is an honor, your majesty. Queen, it was this ship that drove away the gargoyles that appeared last night outside the academy. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Colbert, no, compared to me it was issei who. At that the princess sees that issei was next to Professor Colbert. When she sees him she sees that issei was giving her a smile which causes her to blush. Meanwhile the other girls approached when they saw what was happening. Rosweiss, Ravel, Kaneko, and Siesta went to where Louise was watching what was happening. At that they noticed the blush that formed on the queen's face when she looked at issei, and this caused them to be surprised by the queen's attitude, so they decided to ask Louise what was happening. Rosweiss, Louise, why did the queen blush when she looked at issei? Louise, well, the thing is. In that Louise tells them everything that happened last night with the queen and the relationship she had formed with issei. This surprised the girls since now they had another companion in the harem that had been formed for issei. The only one missing was Inez, who was on a mission, meanwhile returning with the queen. Queen, issei Chevalier de Hayato, I must also thank you. Issei, no, it was because I am a knight, your majesty. Time skipped. Now the students went to the academy to continue with their afternoon classes while the girls left since Louise had to return to classes with Tiffany and Ravel, who had decided to study so she wouldn't get bored. Siesta went to continue working, while Rosweiss went with Kaneko since she had asked her for help training. So issei was left alone since he wanted to stay a little longer on the boat. Thinking about that, he stays leaning on the railing thinking, while Professor Colbert approached where he was and speaks to him. Colbert, what are you thinking? Issei, Professor Colbert. Colbert, tell me issei, do you know where the name of this ship comes from? Issei, hey no. Colbert, Ostland, also refers to the east, the winter of this region. It comes from the hope of going east with you someday. This ship could be finished thanks to you. Issei, how could I? Colbert, there are still many things I want to show you. Do you want to come take a look? Issei, yes. Meanwhile, in another part of the ship, we can see how the princess was in a high part of the ship looking towards the horizon while she began to remember how things had happened last night with issei and how he accepted her feelings. She was happy because her love had reciprocated, but then someone came from behind the queen and this person spoke to her. Maid, your highness? At that the queen turns towards the person who had spoken to her. Maid, the carriage to return to the kingdom is ready. That's what the queen starts to think about. Queen, thinking, I am the queen, I have to return to manage the affairs of state. At that he starts to walk towards the maid, but then he stops. Queen, thinking, but... Maid, is something wrong, your majesty? Queen, A little longer. I would like to stay here a little longer. Meanwhile, returning with Issei, he continued talking with Professor Colbert, who was explaining to him how the ship worked. Colbert, this engine can give the ship 3 times the additional thrust power, thus turning a slow journey into a fast journey. Colbert, using the kinetic energy of your dragon cloak as the foundation for creation, coal has also been used as fuel. Colbert, coal is used to heat water, and steam is used to generate the kinetic energy needed to move the blades. Colbert, I call it steam boiler. Colbert, what's going on, Issei? Issei, nothing. In that, Issei goes to walk for a while to continue watching the ship while the professor went to the control room to continue with his studies. Meanwhile, Issei was walking through the corridors of the ship, but in that Issei notices a door different from the others, so he decides to enter it. When doing so, he can see the large boiler that gave him the necessary force so that the ship could move. Issei, how nostalgic. I'm still surprised by how different technology is in this world. Meanwhile, Professor Colbert was in the control room taking notes on the state of the ship and how long it would take to prepare for the next expedition, but then Kerchi entered the room. Kerchi, so here you were. Colbert, Miss Serbst, I would like to make some adjustments for the preparations for the next expedition now. At that, Kerchi approaches Professor Colbert. Kerchi, how many times do you want me to repeat it so I understand? At that moment, Kerchi begins to get closer and closer to Professor Colbert, especially his face. Kerchi, call me Kerchi. Colbert, no, I'm your teacher. Kerchi, this has nothing to do with our love. At that, Kerchi starts to approach him to try to kiss him, but Professor Colbert tries to move away by stepping back. Colbert, don't stop, miss. At that, Colbert falls to the floor and Kerchi falls on him while she hugs him by the neck while they stare into his eyes with a slightly noticeable blush on her face. Kerchi, then my? Colbert, stop. Meanwhile, we can see how Louise, Rosweiss, Siesta, and Tiffany were gathered together talking until Tiffany takes out something she had given her and shows it to everyone. Louise, what is that, Tiffany? Siesta, it's a morning lens. Rosweiss, what is that? Siesta, it is very popular among women, wives of counts. They are used to see what the person did the night before, so they use it to see if their husbands are cheating on them with someone. Louise, I see. Siesta, but you can only use them once. That's why they sell out so fast. I'm surprised you got one, Tiffany. Tiffania, Beatrice gave it to me as compensation for the misunderstandings we had before. Louise, Tiffania. Tiffania, yes, Louise. Louise, could you lend it to me, please? Tiffania, why Louise? Louise, it's just that Issei has been somewhat distracted since last night, and even though I ask him, he doesn't tell me. That's why I want to know if he's hiding something from me. Tiffania, okay, let's go with Issei. Meanwhile, we can see how Issei was walking through the ship towards the command cabin to talk to Professor Colbert, but then the girls realize where they are and go to him. Meanwhile, with Issei, he was already outside the door and knocks while opening it, but when he does so, he sees how Kerchi was on top of the professor, and when they see them they separate, but Professor Colbert mentally thanked him for saving him from that situation. At that point, the girls also enter the room looking for Issei. Louise, Issei, here you are. Issei, what's wrong, Louise? Louise, just stay still. Issei, it's okay. At that, Issei remained still while she held the morning lens, focusing it on him. After a few seconds in the lens, we can see how an image begins to form, and in that the girls and the others see what happened last night. They also saw the fight that Issei had with Tabitha that the girls are surprised to see since they did not expect that. Louise, what happened there? Issei, what happened was that Tabitha tried to prevent me from rescuing you. Louise, why would Tabitha do that? Issei, she didn't do it of her own free will. Sheffield was controlling her like a guard dog or something. Louise, why? That makes everything more confusing. Kerchi, maybe I have an idea why. At that, everyone looks at Kerchi for what she had just said since they did not expect it. Kerchi may be related to that matter. Meanwhile, elsewhere we can see how Tabitha was in a ruined place where at the entrance we can see that it had a shield at the top but it was torn with a cross, so she enters through the gate, and her dragon tries to follow her but Tabitha stops it. Tabitha, wait here, It'll only take a few minutes. At that point, the dragon starts looking around because he wasn't confident. Tabitha sees how the dragon reacted, so she approaches him and the dragon lowers his head and she starts petting him on the head. Meanwhile, after a few minutes, Tabitha leaves the dragon and enters the house that was further inside. Meanwhile, returning with Kirchi, she was telling the story of Tabitha. Kirchi, Tabitha is not just another noble, she is a member of Gallia's royalty. Kirchi, his father was the younger brother of the current king, he was killed during the fight for the throne. Kirchi, they also set their sights on Tabitha and tried to poison her, but her mother took her place. From that moment on, she lost her mind and locked herself in her room. It was from that moment that the king of Gallia named Tabitha a knight and imposed several irrational requests on her to carry out. Ross-wise, unreasonable requests? Kirchi, killing monsters, dangerous research and stuff like that. Didn't we fight at the Ragdorian lake before? Issei, that means yesterday's incident was also. Kirchi, probably the king of Gallia ordered that. Issei, that is unforgivable. I can't leave it like that if they want to try to hurt Louise again. Louise, wait, just because I'm safe doesn't mean her mission failed, right? What could possibly happen to Tabitha? Kirchi, I don't know, but I could do that. Meanwhile, returning with Tabitha, she was arriving at a large room. She arrives and enters. She begins to walk around the room. She notices a doll on the floor. It was broken at the neck, where the stuffing was coming out. She takes it in her hands and brings it closer to look at it. She then hears someone standing behind her with a book in one hand and his back to her. Tabitha, where did they take her? Unknown. Tabitha, where did they take my mother? Unknown, are you referring to the woman the Gallian soldiers took away this morning? I don't know where they went. At that, Tabitha attacks the man with an ice spell, but the ice stakes are stopped just before they hit him by a blue barrier that appears in front of him. This causes Tabitha to be surprised because she didn't believe this would happen. At that, the stranger takes off his hat and introduces himself. Unknown, I'm Nephthys, Marteau, nice to meet you. Tabitha, elf. Marteau, that's right, we don't like senseless conflicts, so I hope you will follow me without any resistance. Marteau, I'm going to take you to Gallia where Joseph is right now. At that point, Marteau begins to approach Tabitha, but upon seeing this action, she decides to attack him and throws several ice shards at the elf, but the elf closes his eyes for a few seconds and when he opens them, the ice shards remain still in the same place they were. This surprises Tabitha, but after that, the ice shards begin to move again, but this time to attack Tabitha. She receives the attack and falls to the floor due to the force of it. She tries to get up, but it is difficult because of the pain. Tabitha, magic ancient. At that, Marteau puts his hat back on. Marteau, I really don't like that term. I prefer to call it spiritual power. At that, Marteau begins to approach Tabitha, but when he was already close to her, Tabitha's dragon enters through the roof, destroying it in the direction to attack Marteau, but at that he uses his spiritual power against the dragon again, which causes it to crash against a blue wall that with each movement on the wall caused waves that reduce the power. After that he begins to move his hand and this causes the dragon to begin to fall asleep and then fall to the ground fainted while Tabitha looked at everything that had happened, but after a few seconds she also falls unconscious while still holding the doll from before. Meanwhile, returning with Issei and Louise, they were talking with the queen about what had happened. Queen, are you saying that the one who tried to kidnap Louise is part of the Gallia royal family? Issei, Tabitha wouldn't have attacked us if it weren't like that. Queen, but why? Louise, Sheffield left something about wanting my void power. Issei, please Queen, let me go to Gallia. Louise, Issei. Issei, Louise, what they did when they tried to kidnap you is unforgivable, as is the way they used Tabitha in a very cruel way. I don't want this to happen again, Louise. I don't want anything to happen to you. Louise, Issei is too dangerous. Issei, I don't care, Louise, you are one of the most important people to me. I won't let anyone hurt you. At that, the queen takes Issei's hand to try to calm him down. Queen, you shouldn't do something so dangerous. Leave everything in my hands, Issei. Issei, Henrietta, I trust you, but I don't want you to put yourself in danger since I also care about you. The queen, upon hearing this, blushes because of what Issei had just told her about her. Queen, don't worry, we'll gather the evidence first. If there's any proof that Gallia is behind all this, I'll rally the country to protect you and the others. Queen, promise me, you won't do anything dangerous. Issei, it's okay if you ask me, I'll do it. Time jump. Now we find ourselves at the exit of the academy where the queen was saying goodbye to the others since it was time to return to the academy, since she had several things to do. Chapter 38, Irokuku? Now we are in the courtyard of the academy where the boys who belonged to the Knights of Ondine, all of these were looking for something in the academy. All were checking the ground as well as among the plants of the courtyard. Besides them there was also Issei with the girls who also helped to search. Louise, oh my goodness, there's nothing here. At that moment Issei approaches where Louise was looking and speaks to her. Issei, what a strange memory that was right here. Meanwhile, in another part of the courtyard, Guiche was leading the search party for the Knights of Ondine. Guiche, Ondine Knights, search this area thoroughly. Gentlemen, yes. At that, Guiche approaches where Montmorency was thinking about what had happened. Montmorency, I still can't believe it. Tabitha attacked Louise and Issei under the orders of the King of Gallia. Guiche, we need evidence to prove it. Montmorency, if Gallia is really behind this, will you go there? Guiche, are you worried about my Montmorency? At that point, Montmorency gets angry with Guiche for his attitude on the subject, since he was taking it very calmly. Montmorency, you're going to chase Gallia girls, aren't you? Guiche, seeing how Montmorency's attitude had changed, became scared because it was clear that she was angry with him. Meanwhile, elsewhere we can see Maricorn, who was searching in the bushes while watching the girls. But then he sees Issei talking to Roswise, and he feels jealous of Issei since he is always with several girls and he gets bored of searching and screams. Maricorn, how unfair! I want a girl so much. Then something fell from the sky on top of Maricorn and everyone went to see what had fallen, and when they saw it they saw a blue-haired girl who was the one who had fallen on Maricorn. But then the men noticed that she was naked and they blushed, and some got a nosebleed from seeing the beautiful naked girl. But the girl then stood up and saw Issei and ran to him and hugged him. Girl, I finally managed to find you. By doing that Issei is in shock as well as his girls since none of them expected her reaction, while the rest of the boys just got angry with Issei since the girls always went where he was. Maricorn, why do they always only touch Issei? After a few seconds the girl separates from the hug she was giving Issei and looks him in the eyes and speaks to him. Girl, you'll save my older sister, right? Issei's sister? At that Louise arrives where Issei was with the angry girl. Louise, Issei, who is she? Issei, I don't know Louise, I don't know her. At that Louise looks at the girl and shouts at her. Louise, what are you doing naked? The girl, upon hearing Louise, gets angry at how she referred to her. Girl, it's not two, it's Irokuku, okay? Maricorn Irokuku? What an adorable name! Louise, I don't care what your name is, just put some clothes on. Irokuku, what should I do? At that, Guiche approaches where Louise and Irokuku were. Guiche, sorry to interrupt, but you just mentioned your older sister. Could I ask you who she is? Irokuku, from my older sister Tabitha, of course. He. Louise, are you Tabitha's younger sister? Irokuku, you guys are going to save my sister, right? After that, Issei and the girls accompanied Irokuku to the cabin where the Ondine Knights met. There they gave him something to dress up in and after that, they started talking. Louise, so Tabitha was accused of treason for leaving Issei alive and was also stripped of her chevalier title? Irokuku, that's not all, his mother was also arrested. Louise, it can't be. Issei, and where is Tabitha? Irokuku, she was going to rescue her but. In that, Irokuku tells them about Tabitha's confrontation with the elf, and how he defeated and captured her. Louise, if Tabitha was defeated her opponent had to be a quadrangular class mage. Issei, if I had known at that time I would have chased her immediately. Louise, is that why you're asking for our help? Irokuku, I beg you. Issei, it's okay. At that, Marikorn gets up and takes Irokuku's hands. Marikorn, we'd be happy to do so. Then he sees the rest and notices that they just stared at him. Marikorn, we're going to save her, aren't we? Marikorn, don't tell me you suspect her. Guiche, is there proof that she was not sent by Gallia? Renard, it could be a trap to attract Louise. Boy 1. Plus she's very tall and her breasts are very big, it's hard to imagine that she's Tabitha's younger sister. Irokuku, I'm really her little sister, please believe me. Guiche, where is the evidence? Irokuku, evidence. Marikorn, hey! Aren't you guys being too rude? How could such a beautiful girl be lying? Guiche, hey, did you fall in love with her at first sight, faggot? When Marikorn hears Guiche's idea, he blushes a lot and gets very nervous. Marikorn, and nothing like that. Guiche, he certainly doesn't look like a bad person. At that, Irokuku stands up. Irokuku, I'll bring a witness. At that, Irokuku runs out of the place. Marikorn, wait. Then Marikorn goes out to look for Irokuku, but when he gets to the yard, he doesn't see her anywhere. Marikorn, hey? Irokuku? At that point the others also come out and they don't see Irokuku either, but at that point Issei sees that Tabitha's dragon was flying in the sky. Issei, Sylphid? At that moment, Sylphid lands in front of Issei and he speaks to him. Issei, did you see a girl just now? One with long blue hair? Sylphid, upon hearing Issei's question, just tilts his head. Issei, did you see her? At that, Sylphid nods. Rosweiss, that means you are the witness. Issei, listen, I have something to ask you. Does your master have a younger sister named Irokuku? At that, Sylphid nods his head. Guiche, so it's true? Marikorn, see, we should apologize to her. Issei, Sylphid, I have one more question. Was your master captured? At that, a small tear appears in Sylphid's eyes and she nods her head. Issei, I see. Guiche, if even your relative says so, it must be true. Issei, I understand, just wait and see, we will save your master. Guiche, we, the Knights of Ondine, cannot ignore this situation. Now, we will all go to Gallia to rescue Tabitha. Gentlemen, yes? At that, Renard begins to think about the current situation. Boy, what's wrong, Renard? Are you scared? Renard, it's not that, I mean, after all we are His Majesty's royal guards, would it be okay to move on our own? Issei, so you're saying we should just leave Tabitha? Renard, I didn't mean that. Issei, I was able to save Louise because Tabitha let me go at that moment. Marikorn, how can we call ourselves knights if we can't even save our comrades? Guiche, however, as Renard says, we cannot move on our own, we have to obtain authorization. Renard, I think His Highness wouldn't allow it. Issei, no, she will definitely understand. Boy, you do have confidence. Well, it's because she trusts Issei a lot. At that, Issei approaches where Louise was with Ravel and Rosweiss. Issei, Louise. Louise, okay? Issei, join us to ask His Majesty for permission. Louise, sure. Guiche, perfect. Issei, faggot. Louise, let's get going to ask His Majesty's permission. The rest of you, please wait until we return. Gentlemen, yes? Meanwhile, far from where Issei was currently, in the kingdom of Gallia in the palace of its king, we can see that Tabitha was tied up and fainted on the floor while someone entered the room where she was. Unknown, very impressive, you captured my niece very easily, that ancient magic seems genuine. At that, the person who is looking through the balcony responds. Elf, I fulfilled your condition of capturing the traitor you had spoken of, now listen to our requests. King, of course, tell me. Elf, there has been activity recently at Shaitan's Gate, the place we protect. King, Shaitan's Gate? Do you mean the sacred land? Elf, for us it represents the gateway to an abominable evil, an evil that caused a huge disaster 6,000 years ago. King, if there is activity again, could it be a bad omen? Elf, we have a prophecy when the 4 demons gather, the true power of the demon will awaken, that power will be the cause of a great tragedy again. King, demonic power. Elf, what you call the power of the void. King, ho, empty. Elf, if this continues we will never have peace. At that moment the elf who was looking out the balcony approaches the king. King, so what do you want me to do? Elf, I would like you to stop those who are trying to approach Shaitan's gate. King, that's quite a request, obviously you're prepared to give something in return, am I wrong? Elf, 100 years of mining rights to extract wind stones from the Sahara Desert as well as our technological assistance. King, that's not enough. Elf, what? King, I want you to be at my service as long as I live. Elf, what did he say? King, if you are not willing, forget that we had this discussion. Elf, very well. King, I'm glad you can understand the bidashal. Bidashal, there is something I would like to ask you. King, what? Bidashal, what is your goal? What exactly are you planning? King, I'm just bored. Bidashal, I see. At that, Bidashal leaves the place, leaving the king alone with the fainted Tabitha. King, I have prepared a very special gift for you, Charlotte. At that the king approaches Tabitha and lifts her up. King, as punishment for having defied me, I will let you experience the same fate that your mother suffered. I will allow you and your mother to spend some time together while the potion is prepared. That is my gift from someone who did not fulfill his duties as Uncle Charlotte. Meanwhile, returning with Issei and the others, he was already in the castle and had asked for permission to go help Tabitha. Queen, I cannot grant you permission to address Gallia. Issei, why, your majesty? Queen, because if I allow them to go it could end in a war. Issei, war? Queen, you are my personal guard, no matter what the reason, your actions represent the kingdom of Trisin. According to the reports, Tabitha is being held prisoner, isn't she? Queen, if we were to rescue her, that would be interpreted as a hostile act. Can you understand that? Upon hearing this, Issei begins to take off his chevalier cape, which surprises the queen because of the action he was doing. Queen, Issei. Issei, I'm returning it. Louise Issei? Issei, with this, I will no longer bring any problems to Tristein, correct? In that, Goethe and Marikorn also begin to remove their layers of nobility. Goethe, Marikorn and I share the same position as our vice-captain. At that Issei and the boys leave their capes on the queen's table. Issei, we are grateful. Queen, you? At that the queen begins to ring a bell and after a few seconds Denise enters the room. Issei, Anya? Queen, arrest them. This surprises them all, but none of the boys retracted their decision. At that moment, Anis begins to approach Issei. All of this was observed by a celestial dragon that was watching them through the window. At that moment, Anis begins to take the boys away. Outside the room, Anis speaks to Issei. Anis, I'm sorry, Issei. Then Issei interrupts her and kisses her, which surprises her, but then she reciprocates. Issei, don't worry, Anis, this is my decision and it doesn't matter, I will continue loving you. Anis, upon hearing that, can only feel a little better. She hugs and kisses Issei back. After a few minutes, they separate. Anis, promise me you won't do something stupid. Issei, don't worry, Anis. Meanwhile, back at the academy, we can see how Irukaku was running towards the Ondine Knight's cabin and entered through the altar door. Irukaku, big trouble. Big trouble. Everyone's been arrested. Hearing that, everyone is surprised. Montmorency, don't tell me it was Goethe. Siesta, was Issei arrested too? Renard, didn't I tell you? It was impossible for His Majesty to agree. Boy, damn. Tifania, what I'm surprised about is how did you know they were arrested? Irukaku, it's because I have ears from heaven. Siesta, you mean the ears of hell. At that Kerchi enters through the door happily since she didn't know what was happening. Kerchi, I didn't want to wait, so I came to visit you. At that Kerchi sees that everyone was upset. Kerchi, who? Are you busy? Meanwhile, returning with Issei and the others, they were already inside a cell in a high tower. Marikorn, by now we should be on our way to Gallia. Issei, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. Goiche, don't worry, I'm just following my own principles as a noble. Actually, I want to thank you. Issei, thank me? Why? Goiche, a knight is imprisoned in the lower castle for doing his own thing. It's a unique experience. After hearing this, the girls will be deeply impressed. Goiche, I can't contain myself. Marikorn, what the hell are you talking about? If I'm in a place like this, I won't be able to see a Rokuku. Issei, I'm sure Louise is up to something. Look, she and His Highness have been friends since childhood. It's likely that at this very moment she's asking him to free us. Meanwhile, Louise was still in the room with the Queen while she was looking out the window. Queen, why don't you understand my intentions? You are trying to put yourselves in great danger. Louise, yet everyone wants to save her. Queen, I don't want to lose anyone who is important to me again. Louise, as I thought, Your Highness is. Louise, there is something I want to ask you, Your Highness. Queen, what thing? Louise. Louise, what does Your Highness think about Issei? The Queen is a little impressed when she hears this. Queen, what do I think? He is very capable as a knight. Louise, not as a queen. Please answer my question as a friend. As a woman. At that, the Queen turns around and looks at Louise. Henrietta, Louise? Louise, had you ever seen Issei as a man before? Is that why, during the dance, you and Issei? Henrietta, I feel alone and I don't have anyone to trust. Maybe I just wanted to depend on someone. Louise, anyone would do? Henrietta, I can't fully understand it either. Louise, upon hearing that, just clenches her fists. Louise, can't you understand? Very well, then your feelings are your feelings. I have no right to interfere. Henrietta, Louise? Louise, but Issei is my partner. If you want him, I hope you're prepared for the consequences. Henrietta, it's true for you, Issei, he is someone very important. I am very envious of you. You have someone to say it to. At that moment, Henrietta starts playing with her hands where she should have a ring. Henrietta, I don't have anyone. Sorry, Louise. At that moment, Henrietta approaches Louise. Henrietta, but that's why we have to prevent Issei from going to Gallia. Louise, I can't do that. Henrietta, why? Are you just going to sit back and allow someone so important to you to go into battle? Louise, Tabitha has always saved us, that's why. Now it's our turn to do it. At that, Louise takes off. She performs a noble action that impresses the Queen. Henrietta, Louise, even you, why? Louise hands over her cloak to the Queen. Louise, in this way, I am no longer a noble. Just Louise, please, you must treat me as someone who rebelled against your will. In this way I would not be giving you, I would no longer represent any problem for Triexa. Queen, Gallia is looking for your void power. Louise, I know that, but I'm doing this as a noble person, no, as something of principle as a person. Queen, if you want to stick to your principles, I have to act based on mine. Meanwhile, returning with Issei and the other boys. Goiche, I'm hungry. Marikorn, I'm going to die. At that moment they heard someone approaching the cell where they were, and they heard how they started to open it. At that moment they saw Louise enter it. Issei, Louise. Goiche, you're really slow, Louise. Marikorn, we were getting tired of waiting. Then they see how the guard who was carrying her closes the door, and Issei notices that Louise was not wearing her cape. Issei, I see. Goiche, Louise in your cape? Louise, I gave it back to the Queen. Marikorn, why? Louise, it's not obvious. I was also arrested for revealing myself to His Majesty. Goiche, arrested? At that, Louise sits on the bed. Louise, there's nothing to do. This was the only way to avoid causing more problems to His Majesty. You must feel disappointed since I couldn't free them. At that, Issei approaches Louise and hugs her. Issei, it doesn't matter, Louise. I still love you, and I'm surprised that you decided to give up your title. Goiche, this is all wrong. What will we do now if we've all been arrested? Issei, a minute ago you were saying that this was a unique experience for a noble. Goiche, this is something completely different. I really am a prisoner of this place. Marikorn, I won't be able to see a Rokuku. Louise, what? Are you giving up already? I won't give up. Louise, sad face, thinking, I will not give up, I will definitely escape from this place and save you, Tabitha. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the kingdom of Gallia, we see Tabitha waking up and someone speaking to her. Unknown, did you wake up? At that, Tabitha gets up upset because she recognized the voice of the person who spoke to her. Tabitha, you're the same person you were before. At that, Bidashel stops reading and sits on the couch, looking at Tabitha. Bidashel, I am Bidashel, I will take care of your staff. Then Bidashel shows his staff to Tabitha. Tabitha, and this place? Bidashel, Alhambra, you must have heard of this place since you are a noble. Tabitha, my mother? Then Bidashel takes Tabitha to another room where there is a blue-haired woman sleeping on a bed. Tabitha immediately recognizes her when she sees her. Tabitha, mother! Tabitha then runs to where her mother was, and when she gets to where she is, she sees her sleeping hugging a stuffed animal with dark blue hair. Tabitha, mother! Bidashel, she went crazy, so I put her to sleep. At that, Bidashel starts reading his book again while Tabitha watches him. Bidashel, don't worry, don't hurt her, don't think about escaping. Tabitha, where is my relative? Bidashel, that dragon from the verse escaped, don't think you'll be rescued, you know our strength. Tabitha, what are they planning? Why are they keeping us locked up in this place? Bidashel, now we are preparing the potion, all we want is for you to take it when it is ready. Tabitha, a potion? Bidashel, the same one your mother drank, a potion to make you lose your mind. Hearing that, Tabitha gets a little upset. Tabitha, that potion. Bidashel, only we know how to prepare it. If you get bored while preparing it, you can read this book. At that, Bidashel hands him the book he was reading. Bidashel, a heroic story about an Ivaldi man who rescues a young girl kidnapped by dragons. Meanwhile, returning with Issei and the others, Issei found himself lying in a bed with Louise leaning on his chest while he hugged her with one arm, while Guiche and Maricorn tried to create a hole to escape with some spoons that Maricorn had. Issei, I'm still surprised. Why are you walking around with spoons? Maricorn, I always bring them, you never know when something delicious might arrive. In that, everyone hears a voice that surprises them. Unknown, everyone in Tristein. Issei, what is that? At that point, everyone starts looking out the cell window. Unknown, let me introduce this to everyone. Unknown, here is Ostland, the latest model of the steam-powered ship from the Zerbst family of Germania. Everyone in the streets and castle, please watch carefully. In that, Issei recognizes those who came to Ostland. Guiche, damn! How are you so careless? Guard HAA. At that point, the boys hear a scream in the hallway and look out to see a guard fly against the door, and then see Kirchi. Louise, Kirchi. Issei, Professor Colbert. Colbert, we'll talk later, now we have to get them out of there. Issei, leave that alone to me, apartments. Colbert, okay. Maricorn, Issei, what are you going to do? At that moment, Issei's red gauntlet appears. Issei, boost dragon shot. At that, Issei destroys the cell door. Guiche, you could have done that all the time and you didn't? Issei, the idea was not to attract attention. Colbert, this is not the time to argue, come on. At that point, everyone starts running out of the castle. After a few minutes, they were already outside the castle, and outside they meet Siesta, Rasweiss, Ravel, Kaneko, Montmorency, Tiffany, and Irukaku. Nap, Issei. Tiffania, this way. Issei, girls. At that, Issei goes and hugs Siesta, Rasweiss, Ravel, and Kaneko, who was a little surprised by this but reciprocated the hug, while Guiche went to Montmorency's. Montmorency, for heaven's sake, this is intolerable. Guiche, Montmorency. Louise, tell me, how did they know we were arrested? Irukaku, well. Drake, hey Irukaku, it was your master who told you to keep your identity a secret, right? Issei, don't you think it's time for them to know? Louise, you know what? Issei, if you don't tell them, I'll tell them. Irukaku, good heavens. I promised my sister I wouldn't tell. At that, Irukuku joins his hands on his chest and begins to recite a spell. Irukuku, dear winds that surround me, change my form. In that, Irukuku is surrounded by a strong wind that also releases a strong blue light. After a few seconds, you can see how Irukuku was no longer there, and in his place was Tabitha's familiar Sylphid. Louise, Sylphid. Drake, Sylphid is a dragon of the verse. Gaiche, dragon of the verse? Drake, an ancient legendary dragon. They are highly intelligent and extraordinary with language and even have the ability to use ancient magic. Louise, so they are not extinct? When Maricorn sees that the girl he liked is a dragon, he becomes depressed and starts to cry while falling to his knees on the ground. Maricorn, the only girl I like, turned out to be a dragon from the verse.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.